What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV back here for the match review stream. Sorry, we've taken a bit too long to come on today, but we've got an action-packed stream for you for the post-mortem of yet another North London derby defeat. That makes it 3 in a row in N17, which is clearly unacceptable and not good enough. We'll get into the nitty-gritty of the North London derby after we do the review, the Prem, where me and Sim do go head-to-head in predicting Premier League outcomes. So let's get straight into that. And if you don't know by now, the way the scoring works, it's 5 points for a completely correct scoreline, 1 point for a correct result. And the star man, once you pick that man, you can't pick them again for the rest of the season. And it's 5 points for a goal, 2 points for an assist, and at the moment it's 29 points to Sim, 34 points to me. Starting off with Southampton against Manchester United, which finished 3-0 to Man United on the day. Sim went for 4-1, I went for 1-0, both in Man United's favour, so we both get a point, making it 35-30. And I felt Southampton gave it a really good go in the opening half an hour. I thought they were the better side, and the game kind of hinged on that moment where Southampton get that penalty, they miss it, United go up the other end, and Dijk puts it in the back of the net, and it was kind of just one-way traffic from there. Yeah, definitely big turning point in the game, because I thought Southampton were well in it and actually playing really well. But I think you could probably say that with a lot of Southampton games this season, where particularly they look
the
Newcastle
game.
Yeah, they look good. They look like they're on top, but they don't have the quality to put it in the back of the net. And then I sound like I'm talking about Spurs, but they down the quality for back of the net, and then because they're the way they play, they always leave themselves open at the back. And once they missed that penalty, that was a big turning point, and they conceded very soon after. And Man United pretty much was pretty routine for them in the end. Obviously Rashford's goal, but I think Ramsdale will be a bit disappointed, reacted late to it, but it just found its way into the corner. And then they got a man sent off in the second half, Stevens, with a poor challenge, deserved red card in my opinion, and then Garnacho sealed it. Look, it was one of those for United. I wasn't overly impressed, but it was one, they got the job done. I thought they will see it as a good win and a good building block to get their season back underway. But I wasn't watching that thinking, wow, United looking great. But it's just a tale of Southampton really struggling to get to grips with the Premier League so far. Yeah, absolutely. And, Southampton, though, 4 games, 4 defeats, 8 goals conceded, 1 goal scored. It's not looking too good for them. But I would say, like, in some of the games, their performances maybe would have deserved a bit more. So maybe, do you think if they carry on playing in this manner, do you think they can avoid the drop by come the end? It's early days, I guess. It's very early days, but it's the 1 goal scored, which is the big problem. The way they play, they do create openings, but they've got to be putting the ball in the back of the net more regularly if they're going to keep playing this way. Yeah, 8 goals conceded, though, in the first 4 games. I mean, it's not good, but that's not the stat that would worry me more if I was a Southampton fan at this point. It's not great. I mean, it's an average of 2 goals against a game, which is something you have to improve. But the fact that they play such an expansive, playing out the back, and they like to try and hit teams in the space, and they can only get 1 goal, and that was a consolation goal as well they scored. That's got to be a big worry. Southampton's next game at home to Ipswich. You got to say they got to get points on the board in that game. 6 points already. Yeah, already in this early stage of season. But let's move on. Brighton against Ipswich finished 0-0, which I believe is the first 0-0 of the Premier League campaign. Credit to Ipswich for holding Brighton out. I think Sim went for 3-1. We both went for 3-1. And Brighton were just peppering them the whole game. They just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. Yeah, and look, you got to say for Ipswich, fair play to them, because it's a promoted team going up against a Brighton team with chock-a-block full of attacking talent. You look at the names they have in the forward line, and they've got so much attacking talent. And I know maybe they rode their luck at times, but the fact that they were able to hold strong, and the fact that Ipswich are a team new to the Premier League, and they're also a team similar to Southampton looking to stick to their principles, and the fact they kept a clean sheet away at Brighton is no mean feat. Brighton have started the season so well, so to do that is really, really impressive. So if I was an Ipswich fan, I'll be very happy with that draw. Yeah, absolutely. Done very well. Crystal Palace against Leicester. It finished 2-2. Desmond, I went for 2-1. You went for 2-0, both in Palace's favour. Leicester went 2-0 up, didn't they? Just after half-time. And you're thinking, wow, is this a really good away win for Leicester? Is there really problems there with Ollie Glasner and Crystal Palace? But Mateta back on the goals, 2 goals to get back against Leicester, which was a really good comeback from them. But there are a few worrying signs in there from Crystal Palace. Well, no wins in the first 4 games, and they definitely had some winnable games in there, so there's got to be a bit of a worry, considering they ended the season so strongly last season. Again, they have lost Michael Olise, who's obviously a big blow, but they haven't been able to recapture that magic that we saw from them at the back end of last season. They've started the season fairly poorly, and to be 2-0 down to a Leicester team who, yeah, look, they're maybe better than people give them credit for, but still, it's like a 37-year-old Jamie Vardy outpacing Mark Guehi. That's got to be a bit of a concern at that point, because Mark Guehi had a big head start in that run, and Jamie Vardy was able to outpace him. So the timeless Jamie Vardy striking again, getting on the score sheet, his second goal of the season. They did go 2-0 up, but I think Palace rallied and deservedly got a point out of it. They were the team on top for most of it, and Leicester, they'll probably feel, scored 2 goals against run of play. Mateta back on the score sheet. He hasn't started the season too well, so it's good for him to start scoring goals again. And the first goal was a really nice finish with using his instep to get the ball into the far corner. Then it was a late penalty, wasn't it, with Mateta equalising right at the death. So Leicester will feel frustrated. They could have got their first win of the season, but Palace as well feel frustrated, the fact that they haven't won at all yet so far.
Yeah. Next up, Fulham against West Ham. Sim went for 2-1. I went for 1-1, which was a 5-pointer, and I was probably fairly lucky to get this 5 points, to be honest. I felt Fulham were on top for the majority of it, and Danny Ings comes on and grabs that 95th minute equaliser to save West Ham's blushes.
Forgotten man, Danny Ings.
Yeah.
I think they nearly tried to get rid of him on a free, like even back in the season. I think with the wages he's on, he was tough to get rid of, but they'll probably be counting their lucky stars they didn't get rid of him, considering he got this equaliser. But Fulham will be really frustrated they didn't get the win, because I think they deservedly took the lead early on through Raul Jimenez. They were the ones making a lot of the running. They were creating the chances, and they missed a host of chances in this one to put the game to bed. They didn't. They left the game open, and West Ham, Raddy kind of late on, got that late chance through Danny Ings and got the goal. And Fulham will be really frustrated. They just didn't kill this game off, because they should have won this game, but they didn't. And that's what can happen if you leave games open like that.
I feel Emil Smith-Rowe has been a really good signing for Fulham. I felt like everything good happening for Fulham in this game was all coming through him, and he got the assist for the goal that Fulham did score. But very inspired signing, in my opinion.
Looking like good business at the moment.
Yeah. Next up, Liverpool against Forest, which was the shock of the weekend. Forest went to Anfield with Nuno Espirito Santo and took home 3 points. Both us going for big Liverpool victories, and judging by the first 3 Liverpool games, who could have predicted a Nottingham Forest win coming into this game? And I felt like Liverpool were huffing and puffing, but weren't showing any signs of quality in the final third, and looked really blunt, to be honest. I mean, with all the shots and all the possession that they did have, I think they produced less than 1 XG.
Yeah, and I actually think it was a bit of a tactical masterclass from Nuno. I think he did so well, because he started the team with a bit more of like a robust 11. He didn't start with Hudson-Odoi or Elanga in this team. He started with Anderson and Dominguez in the wide areas. So like workhorses who are going to basically frustrate Liverpool, work really hard, get in position. And then on the hour mark, he brings on Elanga and Hudson-Odoi. And as soon as Liverpool started to tire, all of a sudden Forest started to find these transitions, started to really hurt Liverpool. And I think it was a really clever move from Nuno. And I think he actually, he did a brilliant job. It was a really good tactical masterclass from him. And I actually think, looking back at it, obviously Hudson-Odoi got that moment of magic about 20 minutes to go. Really great goal on the transition as well. He's capable of that, especially against potentially tiring legs. And Liverpool had no answer to it, and I think Nuno did a brilliant job here. And you got to give him credit. Arne Slot, with his first difficult moment here, obviously home to Forest, that's an expected 3 points. The fact they didn't even take a point will be a bit frustrating. Obviously the way they've started the season, I don't think the knives will be out for him just yet, but really disappointing result. And for all thoughts of maybe Arne Slot challenging for a title in his first season, maybe that was a bit of a reality check for him.
Yeah, I think so. And it was all just going a bit too well for Liverpool, It seemed like Arne Slot just made a seamless kind of change from Jurgen Klopp. And I was thinking, when is the trouble going to come? Because when have you seen a manager that have had such an impact like Jurgen Klopp, Sir Alex Ferguson, all these kind of managers that have been a staple of the side, won a lot of trophies and stuff? I've never seen such a seamless transition to a new manager, and I guess it's not all roses.
Not at the moment. Look, different games are going to provide different challenges, and we've seen that here. Forest came with a game plan, and it paid off to perfection.
Yeah. Next up, Manchester City getting another 3 points under their belt. 2-1 against Brentford. Sim went for 2-0. I went for 3-1. And I really thought I was going to get that 5-pointer by the end of the game, but they just couldn't find that goal. But again, similar story. You know, Johan Wissa puts Brentford 1-0 up, and then Man City turn it around with Erling Haaland getting another brace to his name. That's 9 goals so far in the first 4 games for Erling Haaland, which is... I mean, have we ever seen? I don't know. We haven't. We haven't seen a player
to 4 games. I
this
mean, he's nearly
ridiculous strike rate. Madness.
Some strikers get 10 goals in a season. I think they've had a good season.
Yeah,
he's 9 goals after 4 games. It's ridiculous. In fact, I think only they've only scored 1 goal that hasn't been Haaland. I think.
Yeah, Kovacic.
So which is a bit of a joke, but yeah, I think. Man City actually did have their troubles opening 15 minutes. So even though they turned it around fairly quickly, they could have actually been more than a goal down by the time they got back in the game. Brentford really took them by surprise. Wissa in the opening minute giving them the lead, and they were looking really up for it, Brentford, in this one. But look, I think what Man City showed is they got more strings to their bow, because you look at the second goal they scored, it's a long ball forward from Ederson straight into Haaland, and all he did was to little nudge on the defender, ease him out of the way, and bam, Ederson gets himself an assist and Haaland gets his goal, which shows that Pep City in 2024 aren't just tiki-taka beautiful footballs. They can also just go long and go direct if they need to, and that's what Erling Haaland has brought to them because of his physical traits. And obviously he got both goals, and Man City got the win. And I think in the end they probably did deserve it, but they definitely were shocked in the opening 15 minutes or so. So Brentford can take heart with how they took the game to Man City, but Man City were just too good. I think it was Man City showing how adaptable they are, which got them the win.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, this game kind of played out the way I expected it, the way I kind of previewed it on Thursday or Wednesday whenever we did the show. I said that Brentford will cause Man City problems and get goals on the transition. I think they did that. And look, Man City were ultimately a bit too strong for this Brentford side. But Johan Wissa going off just before half-time, who's been a major star for them this season. I think he's got, 3 goals so far this season, a couple of assists, maybe an assist in there as well. That will hurt them if he's out for any prolonged amount of time.
Yeah, it'll be a big miss, definitely.
Come at the right time, though.
Sade obviously came on. He's also a good young player. But, Wissa's been doing really good stuff. And again, another player who nearly left. Wolves were interested, but they held strong Brentford, and they're reaping the benefits.
Next up was the 5:30 game, I believe. Aston Villa 3, Everton 2. Sim got that absolutely spot on. What a prediction that is. 3-2. Aston Villa against Everton. I went for 3-1. And yet again, 2 weeks in a row, Everton surrender a 2-goal lead. I do feel like this one's a bit different to the one last week. I think the one against Bournemouth, they were just in complete control up until the 87th minute and let it go. I mean, against Aston Villa, even if you go 2-0 up, you know, the game's never safe, especially at Villa Park. And I don't feel like Everton ever had that game in control, to be honest. I think Calvert-Lewin played well, but definitely should have made it 3-0 or 3-1, whatever it was.
Yeah, I think in the first half, I wouldn't say Everton were amazing, but it was definitely an even game, and Everton took their chances. McNeil with a really good strike into the corner, and I think he was one who got the assist for Calvert-Lewin as well from a set piece. And for all people talk about Aston Villa, they actually are quite vulnerable from set pieces, and they've proven that quite a few times so far. And it was a really... I think Everton definitely 2-0 flattered them at the time, but I wouldn't say Aston Villa did much to say that they shouldn't have been behind, because I thought Everton started the game really well, and I think at that point they were keeping it tight at the back. They weren't conceding too many chances, but that goal just before half-time from Ollie Watkins really did change things. Really poor defending, I thought, from Michael Keane. Ollie Watkins rose highest and got the goal, but Michael Keane should be doing a lot better there. And as soon as that goal goes in, you got the feeling that it's going to be a big second half. That obviously changed the complexion of the game. Ollie Watkins then takes advantage of another defensive mishap. I think it was it Ashley Young on this point, but it was a really poor clearance, just fell into the pathway of Watkins to make it 2-2. And then the super sub, who's been coming on every game this season and scoring goals, John Duran. And this guy has an absolute rocket of a left foot. I've got to give him credit. I don't think he gets talked about enough, because his left
goal
foot
of the season, mate,
is is explosive. When if you allow him to shoot, this guy can hammer it. I think last season he scored a few absolute bangers with his left foot. He's got so much power behind it. And this one, such a little backlift. He's about 35 yards out from goal. He doesn't even have like a good run up. He takes one touch out of his feet and bam, swerves it into the top corner. It's a goal out of absolute nothing. But if you're John Duran, what a finish. And Watkins got a brace, but still John Duran gets the final word in this one. So Unai Emery's got a big decision next game who he starts. But he's even been talking about getting Watkins and Duran together, because how can you leave Duran out when he's been banging goals in like this?
Yeah, and I think Leon Bailey, he's injured at the moment, or he went off injured in this game, or he's injured in general. I think you have to find some way to fit John Duran in, because every time he's coming on, he's making a big impact. And this is goal of the season already. What a goal it was. Outside of the foot, swerving, no chance for Pickford to get anywhere close to that. And what a player they have on our hands. And just to think, on Instagram before the season, he was doing the whole Hammers thing and, on the verge of joining West Ham. And now look at what he's providing. Unbelievable from John Duran. Ollie Watkins back on form as well, getting those 2 goals. I thought it was only a matter of time till Ollie Watkins finds the back of the net again, and it looked like those 2 weeks off has given him, stand him in really good stead to move forward into this season. So credit to Aston Villa for turning over that deficit, but big trouble signs for Everton at the moment.
Yeah, so the first 2 games they lost 4-0, 3-0, and the second 2 they've lost 3-2 after leading 2 goals in each game. I mean, if you're Sean Dyche, you wanted a response to the first 2 games of the season when you've conceded lots of goals, and he would have felt like getting his team to be 2-0 up against the likes of Bournemouth and Villa, that would have been a good response. But the fact they've given them up has to be so frustrating, and the pressure must be building on him because he keep losing these games. I think they started last season in a similar fashion, and they did turn it around. So he'll be confident that he can turn it around, but they're never going to get a better opportunity to get points on the board when you're 2-0 up in these games. And the fact they've come away with nothing has got to be a massive bitter pill to swallow. He'll feel if they can keep going 2-0 up, there's surely a matter of time before they start taking points. But, there's an argument to say, how often are they going to be going 2-0 up against these kind of teams again? So to take 0 points is really, really frustrating. And the pressure's definitely building on Sean Dyche for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on to the last game on the Saturday, which was Bournemouth against Chelsea. It finished 1-0 to Chelsea. Sim went 2-1 to Chelsea. I went for 2-2. And I thought Chelsea were really lucky to escape with 3 points from this game. I thought Bournemouth were peppering them for the majority of the game. But you got to give them credit for digging deep and finding that goal towards the end of the game. I thought Jadon Sancho, he came on in the second half, and he put in a proper good debut, didn't he? He was just causing Bournemouth no ends of problems. Lovely pass to get that goal as well for Nkunku, who as well hasn't had the best start of the season. So good 3 points for Chelsea, but I felt like they got away with one. Yeah,
obviously the missed penalty was a big turning point again. Both teams who missed penalties this weekend ended up losing. I think that goes to show what could be a massive turning point in both those games for those teams. But Evan Nilsson hasn't really got going for Bournemouth so far. Obviously missed a few chances on his debut and missed a penalty in this one, so I'll be absolutely gutting for him. But if you're a Chelsea, I don't think it was his best performance, but they held strong, they didn't concede, and when you've got the talent they do up front, they're always likely to come up with something, and especially as well, Neto's having an off day, and you can bring on someone like Sancho, you can bring on Nkunku off the bench, you can bring on João Felix. They've got serious depth in those attacking options, and yes, they've got to make sure it clicks at times, and they've got a lot of players to deal with, but in days like yesterday when all you need is one moment to win the game. When you've got those options on the bench, there's always a chance you might find it, and that's exactly what happened. So credit to them. They've got the attacking talent, and it paid off in this one.
Let's move on to the North London derby. It finished 1-0 to Arsenal at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Sim went for 2-2. I went for 2-1 to Spurs. 0 points on the board for this one. And I felt like Spurs, we started really well in those first 20, 25 minutes. We were pressing them high. We were winning the ball back. We just couldn't fashion, real chances on goal. And I felt like at the end of the first half, I was sitting there thinking, we've been the better side, but Arsenal have created the better chances here. And the longer it went on 0-0, you had a sense that something like that could happen. They got their goal from a corner, horrible defending from Romero, and Arsenal make it 3 in a row at Tottenham.
Yeah, which is really embarrassing for Spurs in a London derby to put it. Well, look, obviously we tried hard and obviously we put a lot of effort in, but the quality was just missing in that final third. When you're coming up against a defensive team or a defensive structure like Arsenal, who have only conceded 1 goal so far this season, they've now kept 3 clean sheets in 4. They had the best defence last season. It's going to take something a bit more than what we showed to break the deadlock, and it was such a disappointing game, so frustrating. We just couldn't put a cross in. We weren't able to break the door down, and Arsenal got their moment from the set piece, and albeit they didn't create much on the day either. It was going to be a game of fine margins, and so it proved. Arsenal got the goal. We had no answer to it, and a really frustrating day for Spurs.
Absolutely. And last but not least, Wolves against Newcastle. It finished 2-1 to Newcastle. Both of us went for 1-1, and it was 1-1 going into the final 10 minutes. But, Wolves go 1-0 up early on, and Newcastle turned it around the last 15 minutes with Fabian Schär and Harvey Barnes getting on the score sheet. So I didn't see a kick of this game because it was in the North London derby aftermath, and I kind of just locked off from everything. But good away win for Newcastle.
Yeah, I think Newcastle, I was watching some of the highlights, and again, I felt like they rode their luck in this one. Obviously, they did go 1-0 down, and it was a really good goal, actually a brilliant dummy from João Gomez in the lead-up to that goal. That was a really good counter-attack from Wolves. And Newcastle, I thought, really struggled to break him down. They were really struggling to get back in the game, but they got a moment of fortune. Fabian Schär just takes a punt from 30 yards. Doesn't look like there's any danger there, but it takes a deflection of Craig Dawson and finds its way into the corner, and all of a sudden that changes the dynamic with 15 minutes to go. Newcastle got their tails up. Harvey Barnes enters the fray, and what a goal he scored, 25 yards out, curling it into the top corner. So 2 long-range efforts getting Newcastle the win, and despite not playing so well so far this season, they find themselves unbeaten, 3rd in the league with 3 wins out of 4. So they'll be thinking, if we can get these kind of results when we're not playing well, imagine when we start clicking. So, brilliant result for Newcastle, and for results-wise, brilliant start to the season.
I guess there's 2 ways you can look at it, isn't it? You can either say, are these results sustainable on a long-term basis for Newcastle if they carry on playing like this, or will they click into gear? And are these really a sign of a good team for Newcastle? Which one do you think it is?
I would argue they might be getting away with it, and maybe the results will revert. But I think as well, Isaac went off with a troubling injury. You said he complained of blurred vision, so we'll still see how he comes away with it. If he gets an injury, I think that's a massive miss for them. But I think a part of me feels like they do have another gear to go up, but they are getting the results right now. They're just kind of... It reminds me a bit of Spurs in Conte's second season. When we started the season, we were getting good results, but we weren't really doing well. And then we kind of reverted. The results kind of caught up with us with the performances. So I feel like if they keep on playing this way, the results will catch up with them.
And the start men, 0 points for each of us. Sim went for Eberechi Eze in a 2-2 draw with Leicester, and I went for Luis Diaz, who unbelievably lost to Nottingham Forest at home, where we all thought Liverpool were going to give Forest a big tonking. But you got to give credit to Forest for the start of the season they've had. They've also unbeaten so far in the first 4 games. But we finish this weekend I'm on 42 points. Sim is on 37 points, and we'll be back just before the weekend for our Predict the Prem episode for next weekend's fixtures. But look, I think it's time to get into it.
Do we have to?
I think it's time to get into it. It's the post-mortem. It is the... we have to get into this North London derby absolute horror show. And if you just look at the performance, I don't think it was a complete horror show, but we're just such a blunt knife. Like... We're trying to go in and cut our steak with a spoon, pretty much. That's what it feels like at the moment. And I saw a lot of similarities to the game at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium last year, particularly in the opening 20 minutes, half an hour. Like, if you put those goals aside where we conceded from those set pieces, we pressed high up the pitch. We won it back in good areas. We just couldn't hurt Arsenal for love nor money. We're swinging crosses into the box for no one. And it's just really frustrating to watch because it gives you this like a bit of a false sense of security where, it looks like we're playing well and it looks like we're really hurting Arsenal or on the brink of hurting Arsenal. But everything just fails to materialise. Yeah,
ultimately such a frustrating game. I think there were a lot of similarities to this game to last year. Obviously, the big difference is we weren't 3-0 down going into the first half, which is a positive. But it's so frustrating the way we pressed. We came out with looked like serious intent. We're pressing them in their final third. We're getting a lot of joy. We're winning the ball back in such good positions. We're looking like there could be really promising openings. And then we just don't take that final step of creating that really good quality opportunity. We won the ball back in so many good areas, and we won the ball back in so many chances to open up Arsenal. But we just weren't able to create anything. I've got some screenshots here of how many times we were able to win the ball back and the openings we created against Arsenal, but we weren't actually able to create a good opportunity from these openings. And bring on the first one here. So we not this one, then one after, this one. So bring on this one. We win the ball back off Jorginho high up the pitch. Deki finds himself in a really promising area. He has two options: either cut inside and shoot, which is maybe a bit more difficult, or could he slide in Brennan Johnson there on the right hand side? He decides to go for maybe the more difficult one, which is cutting inside and shoot, and unfortunately his shot gets blocked by William Saliba. There's then we do really well to nick the ball high up off Ben White. Ben White's pass is intercepted by Son. It falls to Dom Solanke in what was a really promising position here from Dom Solanke to win the ball off. Bring on the next one. And you can see it's fallen to him. He's got so much space there. Look, I think he's almost got too much space. I think the mistake Solanke makes here is instead of letting the ball run across his body to get the shot off, he takes a touch, and that touch allowed William Saliba to get close to him. And you can see in the next screenshot, that's when he had space, and this is when he actually attempts a shot. Look how much the space is closed down. But that's a really good opportunity if for Spurs to. How do we not make an opportunity from that situation? He could have even found Brennan Johnson there on the right hand side, who's completely free.
It's criminal.
He could have passed it to him. Instead, he actually doesn't even attempt a shot. He tries to cut inside Saliba for some reason and doesn't attempt the shot, and that was really disappointing. And again, 26 minutes in, we nick the ball off Thomas Partey, really promising position, and again, look at this. We win the ball. It falls to Dejan Kulusevski, and if you go to the next shot, this is when we have, if you actually look at that, there's 3 Arsenal defenders and there's 5 Spurs attackers. So again, how do we not make an opportunity from this kind of opening? Instead, Deki, I think, was a bit guilty of dallying on the ball a bit, and Saliba gets the challenge in, and Arsenal win the ball back. But these opportunities in the first 25 minutes, we had to make a good quality chance. And this is what Ange was talking about in his post-match interview. He was talking about how we found ourselves in a lot of good positions and we didn't create chances from them. And these are positions where if you're a top team, you're ruthless in those situations. No, you make a good quality chance. You make a good quality opening. You make the keeper make a good save. You do something to make the most out of those situations, because look, don't get it twisted. The fact that we've created those openings, a lot of teams, I know a few teams this season have done that against Arsenal, but we've done that a few times in the opening 35, 25 or opening half an hour. And that's a lot to do with how Ange has coached the team into pressing, getting close to the opposition, getting in their faces, winning the ball back. And then once they get in that position, it's on the players' individual ability to create those chances, and they just weren't able to do it. And that was really, really frustrating. And I think Ange will be tearing his hair out on the fact that we've created those openings and haven't created a good opportunity from any of them. And that was really frustrating. We did create a couple of chances. Obviously, Deki had a shot early on, which Raya saved. And then I think there was a cross from Deki, which was flicked on by Brennan Johnson, and Raya had to make another save. So we did force a couple of saves out of Raya. But from those openings, there should have been at least a goal out of one of them. And that was really frustrating.
Yeah, and the best chance of the first half does fall to Arsenal, with Martinelli going for on goal. I thought, was it Romero who got done in the build up to that goal? But
Romero comes flying out, and then they prod it through to Martinelli, who missed a chance.
It's ridiculous to have so much control of the game, so much possession, and create as little as we actually did. And we can talk about how impressive it is to win the ball back high up against Arsenal and play in their half, but we played into their hands throughout the game. This was their game plan. plan. Their game plan obviously wasn't to lose the ball in those areas of the pitch, but their game plan was to keep it tight and just to nick a goal at somewhere, and that's exactly what happened throughout the game. So Arteta's game plan worked down to a T in this game, and whatever you want to say about how impressive it could be, we've seen these traits happen at Newcastle. We've seen these traits happen at Leicester. And now we've seen these traits happen against Arsenal. And it's a consistent theme that's happening now throughout this season. And it's followed on from last season. So are we looking at a team progressing at the moment? I think maybe you can argue that we are playing better in a few of these games objectively. But the same things keep happening. And I, for one, I am in full belief that Ange can get it right with time on his hands, and if he has, given that time from the board, the fans need to back it as well. But I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, are these signings in the forward line, are they good enough to keep Ange in his job? Because it's a results-driven business. Brennan Johnson is consistently playing poor. The only good game he has had is off the bench against Newcastle. The 3 games that he started, in my opinion, have been shocking. Wilson Odobert has been brought in as a 19-year-old, and he's shown flashes, but is he ready to come in and make a real difference right now? I question that. Solanke has played 2 games, so I don't want to get on his back too much, but he's had chances to win games for us, and he hasn't done that. So and in Heung-min Son, I love the guy to bits, and I think he's been one of the best players in Spurs' Premier League history. But is he playing in the right position to get the best out of him? That's also a big question in this Ange Postecoglou system. So do we have the right players in this forward line to fulfill the needs that Ange wants?
And that's a big question mark. That was obviously the biggest worry. He didn't even mention Timo Werner, and I think enough said about that one. But I think that's definitely, the jury's out on that. The jury is very much out on that. I did think, getting Solanke into the team would make a difference and would give us more of a focal point. I do think we've looked better with him in the team, and I think he did some really good stuff in the build-up up against the 2 Arsenal centre-backs. And you've got to remember, this is his second game, his home debut. It doesn't get much tougher than facing Saliba and Gabriel, and he didn't get much joy. The joy he did get was mostly in the build-up phases in the game. When it came to crosses in the box, first of all, he was feeding off absolute scraps because the delivery 9 times out of 10 was shocking. A couple of times they were able to find him. He did really well to manufacture a chance out of the looping header, I thought, which was, if he would have scored that, would have been a phenomenal header. So it wasn't even a good chance. He just about somehow manufactured a header out of it. And
reminded me a bit of Harry Kane's goal against Arsenal all those years ago.
Yeah, would have been a phenomenal header, but he was getting no spare change out of Gabriel and Saliba for a lot of the game, and he'll have easier opponents. And I think for a lot of the game, I thought his pressing was also really good. There was some really good moments where he won the ball back off the Arsenal players as well. So he showed he's capable of that. But you got to remember, it's only a second game. It's gonna take a while for him to get used to his teammates, to the runs that he has to make for the players to know what exactly runs he's going to make as well. So that's all going to take a little bit of time, and I think we will see it in time. He will start to score goals, but it's only a second game. I do think he'll make a big difference. But I have to say, Brennan Johnson yesterday, how many times he had an opportunity one-on-one with Timber to take him on, really take the game to him, force an opportunity.
And he was on a yellow card.
And he was on a yellow card, but time and again, he just didn't commit him. He didn't. Look, you got to give Timber some credit, because I thought he defended very well throughout the game and kept. And when Johnson he must have had about 5 or 6 one-on-one opportunities to run at him, and each time either the cross was blocked or he went backwards. He wasn't able to do anything yesterday to ask different questions to Timber. He did the same thing every time, which was get the ball, run down the line, and have his cross blocked. The one time he did cut inside, he had a shot on his left foot, which was a really weak effort, which Ray had easily dealt with. And you just felt like if we had a player who was able to commit Timber and really go at him, like he could have really either got him sent off, or was able to get at least one cross off. He just wasn't able to get any crosses off. We've got Solanke in there waiting for a delivery, and Johnson just wasn't able to do anything. And it was the most frustrating game watching him every time getting to that right-hand side, doing absolutely nothing. And I have to say, Son, to be fair, on a couple of occasions did Ben White and was able to create something. He even created a chance for Kulusevski early on. So he did little bits, but again, Son was also largely frustrating when we got the ball out to him. It seemed like he didn't have the confidence a lot of the time to take Ben White on, apart from a couple of occasions early on. And I felt like, as well, having Son so far away from goal, literally hugging the touchline. I've always said that you're not going to get the best out of Son playing in that position. Yes, he like yesterday, there will be a couple of occasions in the game where he will be able to get the better of his fullback. But if he's not creating a chance from those occasions, it's not going to happen. He's not this relentless winger anymore. So it's only going to happen once or twice a game where I think Son is clever enough to know that at 32 years of age, he's got to pick his moments to go at his fullback. He can't go at them relentlessly because he doesn't have the physicality at 32 to do it. But he can pick his moments. And yesterday he did that, I think, fairly well in the first half because he did it a couple of times. But again, we're talking about a situation where Son's coming off the pitch where he hasn't had a shot on goal. And that should never
criminal.
That should never be the situation because Son's best attribute is getting his finishing, getting shots in and around the penalty box, getting him in that Sonny zone, as we say, and getting him shots off. And if we can't manipulate the pitch where we're able to get Son in those situations where he's getting shots on goal, then we're never going to see the best out of him.
And that's on the manager.
That's a massive issue.
And that's completely on the manager. Like
100%.
You've got fullbacks in Pedro Porro and Destiny Udogie who can go on the inside, they can go on the outside, right? Why not just tweak a few things, maybe even in just particular games where you can get Destiny Udogie providing the width on the outside and then you use Sonny in those little pockets on the inside where he comes alive. He can shoot from 30 yards and ping it into the top corner. Like, we need to get Son in those areas because that is where he is at his best. And when you've got a player of Son's caliber and Son's quality, you have to use him to his strengths.
I think if you're going to play Son off the left, then you have to adjust how your wingers are playing. That's the reality. I think the way we use Brennan Johnson is probably correct. I know whatever you want to say about Brennan, that's probably right for him to be a touchline winger, hugging the touchline, getting to the byline and getting cutbacks. That's probably the best use out of Brennan Johnson. So you don't have to change anything there. But when it comes to Sonny, using Sonny as a touchline winger, using him to basically get to the byline and get crosses in, that's no way to use your best player, especially with his best attributes. And I know we've had problems with Son up front in terms of, I don't think Son up front would have been the answer yesterday. But adjusting his position, allowing him to be a bit more central, allowing him to operate in zones where he's able to get shots on goal, where if he can just get a little opening, he can get a shot off and he can be clinical, he can make the difference in those scenarios. Having him stuck out wide, asking him to take on fullbacks all the time, asking him to just basically get crosses in the box and not getting in positions where he can shoot, that's not going to get the best out of him and it's not going to reap the benefits of having Son in the team or the system as well. I don't think it suits the system having Son in that kind of position either. An adjustment there if he's going to continue to play Sonny on the left wing because it's just not going to work, especially against better opposition. Son can be a killer in these games. He can make the difference, but not in that position, not stuck out wide, hugging, getting chalk in his boots. That's not going to get the best out of Son, in my opinion. So I think that's a problem that Ange... Look, it's only 4 games into the season and he'll have time to make these adjustments. But I think if he's going to continue to play Son in that position, I think it's going to be a frustrating watch, I think.
And you also just need a bit of variety in the play where I do feel the fullbacks invert just a bit too much. Like, everyone knows exactly what we're going to do every single time. And if you've got a team like an Arsenal who know who are the most top defensive team in England at the moment over the last year, they know how to defend it and they'll defend it every single time. And we saw that yesterday. And we can't seem to fashion real chances consistently against anyone at the moment. And I'm thinking about that. And it's like, teams know exactly what we're going to do, exactly how we're going to set up every single game. You've got to have some variation to your play.
Well, I think he's trying to do that, to be fair, because he's brought Dijk into the middle. And I think that has brought an extra element to our game. I think Dijk... What's happened, I feel like, with Dijk in the middle is it means Maddison has taken on a bit of a deeper position and we're not seeing him enough in the final third a lot of the time. First of all, when he is in the final third, he has to be doing more. But I feel like he is trying to add different elements to our game. And I think starting Dijk and Maddison in the the 2 number 10 positions or number 8 positions, we haven't seen that against top teams so far. And I think... I wouldn't say it worked because obviously we lost the game. We didn't create enough chances. But, I wouldn't say we didn't create enough chances because we had Dijk and Maddison together. I think that was a different element to how we were operating in the final third. We weren't able to. We were only able to find spaces out wide, and the wide players weren't good enough to create these opportunities. Arsenal just clogged up those central areas. They had Partey and Jorginho in a double pivot. Two players who can be effective defensively, and it proved that yesterday. And we struggled to break them down centrally. We tried to go through the centre. In fact, Deki was finding a few pockets of space in the centre, but he wasn't doing enough when he was in those positions. But I think give that dynamic time to develop, that will reap some benefits. But I do think he's trying to find different elements to how we're attacking teams, which is why he's wanted a more offensive number 8 in there. I think it's just going to need time. I think the answer is to persist with that. And I think we have to kind of adjust the wide positions and just how Sonny's playing, and that's going to reap more benefits. And as well, we just need someone. We need either Brennan to step up, or we need someone on the right hand side who's going to do something when they're finding themselves in space. Because Brennan found themselves in all sorts of space yesterday and just wasn't able to provide any sort of quality, and that's a big problem.
Yeah.
So I think what's happened this season is we're actually finding more control in games. We're having more possession. I think we're dominating games a lot more than we were doing last season in a weird way. So what's happening is we're getting less transitions in our favour because we're having more control. We're getting less transition. So the likes of Timo Werner and Brennan, who are really good in transition, they're actually becoming less effective in the way we're playing this season because we're having so much more possession. So in a way, because we're doing a good thing in dominating the ball and finding and having more control, that's added a different problem. And that different problem is the likes of Brennan, even Son, Timo Werner, who are much better in transition, are finding it more difficult to be effective. And that might take time to adjust to. And that's maybe something we need to work on.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the corner then. So
it's Romero again.
The corner is, first of all, I think it's a shambles all round, but Romero is the main culprit. He is the culprit, to be honest, because what he has got Gabriel, he's watching him, and he allows Gabriel to get off him, and he allows Gabriel to get behind him, which is ridiculous.
And you know what? All these people talking about, he's got 2 hands on him, he pushes him. I'm sorry, that is incredibly weak from Romero. For someone who prides himself on his physicality, for someone who's a World Cup winner, and people call him, some people call him, one of the best defenders in the world, it's incredibly weak. And it's a constant theme now this season where he's getting caught out. A majority of goals that we've conceded this season have all come from Romero being caught out.
And I think as well, the corner is literally in pretty much on the edge of the 6-yard box. If that's Raya, he comes and claims it. If that's a top keeper, they come and claim that. Vicario needs to do better from these situations. He needs to be stronger. He needs to be able to shove people out the way and go and get that ball.
To be fair though, to Vicario, I feel like he has stepped that up in his game so far this season, 4 games in.
Fair enough. But he did flap at one in the first half.
True.
Completely flapped at one. And I thought in this occasion he's got to be stronger. If you look at this picture though, in talking about those 2 hands Gabriel has on Romero, for me, if Romero goes down there, the fact of the matter is Gabriel does shove him with 2 hands, and it does make Romero move forward. Yes, Romero's got to be stronger, and yes, the fact that he allows Gabriel behind him is a problem in itself. How are you marking Arsenal's biggest set piece threat and allowing him to get the run on you and allowing him behind you when you're supposed to be marking him? But I think if Romero is clever here, and if he goes down in this situation after being shoved by Gabriel, I think the referee rules it out. I think he gives a foul. And I even think VAR might even intervene in this situation, because I think Gabriel shoves him with 2 hands, and I think Romero's trying to stay on his feet because he knows a corner's coming in, and he doesn't want to let and whatever. I think he's weak in that situation. But if he's smart, I think if that's Gabriel or Saliba, they go down, and I think they get the free kick, because I do think it's 2 hands on him, and I do think referees will give a foul for that.
Yeah,
so I think
if that's the case, I still think it would have been weak. I think it was barely a push.
He pushed him
from Gabriel. I think it was barely, and I think it's...
It was a push.
Well, regardless what you think, whether it's a push or not,
It's a push with two arms.
It's still so weak from Romero for what he's done. Like, he should never be getting barged out like that from Gabriel. This should never be happening. He's supposed to be our top centre-back, one of the best physical defenders in the world, and he's getting caught out every single game. It's nowhere. The start of this season for Romero has been shocking.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
It's been absolutely shocking. Every goal we've conceded has come from his mishaps. So, maybe VAR intervenes, but I think going back and talking about if VAR is intervening or not, if he goes down, I think that's just taking away talking about the flaws that Cuti Romero is showing this season, because I think it's been nowhere near good enough. Nowhere near.
I agree. And I think even earlier in the game, he was caught out being rash in that chance that Martinelli had. Yep. What was annoying, though, is he started the second half really well. Like, I remember he put that big challenge in the corner and he was looking really up for it. And then this happens. And I don't know what is going on for his marking. He just switches off. He just completely loses Gabriel. He's not even looking at him. How do you allow him behind you? It's ridiculous. You should be goal side. That's like schoolboy stuff, be goal side from a corner. I think it's a joke that he allowed Gabriel that space, and Gabriel ends up getting the winner.
And you know what I hate as well from Romero is these excuses coming on after the game about him retweeting this tweet from Gaston Edel saying, he had to fly home, not in a private jet, and he had a fever going into the game. First of all, don't make excuses after the game. And if you want this stuff to be made known to the manager or the hierarchy and stuff like that, you keep it behind closed doors. Don't start spouting about it on social media and stuff. I think it's ridiculous from Cuti.
Yeah, and he's saying he had to play with a fever or something like that. I mean, if that is true, then make yourself unavailable if you don't feel up to it. If you don't feel like you're capable of playing the game. If you're saying, he had to play with a fever. Like, we got Dragic in there. He had a very good game last time.
More than adequate replacement.
Then say that you not available to play if you feel that under the weather.
I just think it's a bad look, though.
Don't start after the game saying, I had to play with a fever, start making excuses. Like, come on.
It's a bad look to come out after a North London derby defeat and start retweeting these kind of things.
100%.
Like, why are you doing that?
Smacks of making excuses, to be honest.
And to be fair, I think Mickey van der Ven was brilliant throughout the game. I thought every challenge that he came up, he was sweeping up everything. I thought he dealt with Havertz really well, particularly in the first half in the air. Albeit Havertz did win quite a bit off him in the second half. I was really impressed of how Van der Ven dealt with Havertz in the air, particularly in that first half.
Yeah, I mean, Havertz did have that one chance in the first half, but that was mainly a Fudogi. That was the head of Fudogi. But I thought actually Havertz had, although the corner they won came off Havertz kind of breaking away and holding the ball up, but I think he did all right, Havertz, but I think Van der Ven, a lot of the time when it was a transition, he really dealt with it, and he dealt with it well. So I thought he had a really good game. He did have some trouble, though, playing out the back in the first half, especially. Havertz was able to close him down on a couple of occasions, but they didn't really create any chances from it. I think they won a couple of throws. That was it. I think by and large, he had a pretty good game, Mickey van der Ven. I was pretty happy with him.
He was probably our best player on the day.
Yeah, well, probably when all said and done.
So, look, it was a very frustrating day. There's a lot of discourse on this about Ange Postecoglou.
The most frustrating thing about this game was utterly predictable.
Yeah,
it was utterly
absolutely.
predictable.
You knew the longer this goes on 0-0, the more chance Arsenal are going to win this 1-0. And the Newcastle game as well. At the end of it, you were saying how predictable that is, where we don't take our chances, and the whole of the second half you were going, we're going to lose this 2-1, we're going to lose this 2-1. And the whole of the second half, I was thinking to myself, we're going to lose this 1-0, we're going to lose this 1-0, and ultimately it happens.
Yeah, so I think you know what, and I think the single most disappointing thing about the North London derby, in terms of the performance-wise, was that after we conceded,
there was nothing.
Absolutely no response from the team. We still had time, 25 minutes. That's not nothing. And to be fair to Ange, he did very quickly after that make changes. He brought on Odegaard. I thought it was the wrong changes. He brought Odegaard on. I thought, no, at that point, I don't think it was wrong. Odegaard on, and who did he bring on?
Werner.
No, that was later on. He brought Odegaard on, and he brought Sarr on.
Sarr and Odegaard. That, to be fair, those were the right changes.
Those were probably the right changes.
Why are you bringing on Werner for Madison? With 10 minutes to go. If you're going to take off Madison, you bring on Lucas Bergvall.
Yeah.
We got told in the summer at the end of the window, we ain't signing a midfielder because we really believe in Archie Gray and Lucas Bergvall are here to make a difference and they're here to make an impact. Where are they?
And also the fact that the way the game was, the state the game was in those last 25 minutes, Arsenal had really dropped down into like 2 banks of 4, really low block, clogging up the central area. The only way we're going to break them down is a bit of quality from deep positions. You're not going to get that from Timo Werner. The only person capable of doing that was Maddison. If you're thinking he's tiring or whatever, you need to bring him off, or it's not happening for him. Then you bring on Bergvall. You don't bring on Timo Werner. And I think, what do you put Timo Werner on? He put Son up front, and basically we had absolutely no delivery. You're swinging balls into Son, looking for him to challenge something. Son's kind of dropping in deep positions. He wasn't able to affect the game in those last 20 minutes. We had then no Maddison, who was who's going to break him down from a deep position. Decky, I love him, but he's more of a dribbler in those ball carrying those positions. He's not going to be one to usually, create a bit of magic in those scenarios of this passing. We needed Maddison. If it's not Maddison, you have to give Bergvall a go. The fact he brought on Timo Werner, and Werner had a disaster class when he came on. That pass, when he's on the left-hand side, he passed it first time, and he just sets Arsenal up on a counter-attack straight away.
And then he blocks Sarr's shot and being offside.
Oh, my God, it was just... Honestly.
It was comical, to be honest, because Werner came on and I thought the first few actions he actually looked all right when he came on, Timo Werner, and then that happened and it was just like thinking, just get this guy off the pitch, man. Like, ridiculous. And this is what I was saying in the summer, like at the end of the transfer window. Have we done enough to really take us on to the next level? Ange has been talking about we need more quality in the front line. Have we added that more quality in the front line? We've got Dom Solanke, and fair enough, but apart from that, what have we done? Like, where is the strength in the wide areas? We don't have it.
Yeah, that's the big problem. And as I said, I'm not unhappy with the Odegaard signing, but why have we re-signed Werner? That's the big question here. And to be honest, that has to be on Ange, because we signed him very early on. I don't think we sign him that early on unless Ange is one okaying it and wanting it, actually. And I think having Timo Werner here is already showing problems.
Yeah, Ange backs himself to get him back to his old Leipzig days. That's the problem.
But we don't need that Werner. We need someone different in the wide areas. Werner's best days at Leipzig were him being a striker. That was where he was at his best. And I understand the way we play. His probably most effective position in how we play is probably on the wide areas, but Timo Werner's never been a brilliant wide player. He can do that shift and ball across the face of goal, but that's all he has. When he's not doing that, he's completely ineffective, and especially against low blocks. He can't do anything against a low block. He doesn't have that quality to put a ball on a sixpence when he cuts inside on his right foot. When he cuts inside, nothing happens. We needed a real upgrade in that wide area position, and we needed Odegaard as like a young up-and-coming winger. I'm happy with that. I don't mind having Odegaard as a winger who could, really as a young player who can be really good with his dribbling and have that little bit of fearlessness and whatever. He can be a young up-and-coming player who we might see the best of in a couple of years. But we needed, with him, a serious upgrade, a proper signing on the wing. And instead of that, we went with Timo Werner. And at the moment, look, it's still 4 games into the season. It's still early days. But at the moment, we're not looking like we've done enough. And again, Solanke's only played 2 games. We need to get him acclimatised to the team. I don't want to jump the gun saying, our front line is useless just because they've looked useless for the first 4 games. Because I do think the first 4 games have brought more issues, this season than different issues to last season. But at the moment, especially in the wide areas, it's worrying signs.
But is Ange going to be able to last the season with this front line? Because it is a results-driven business. Yes, it's only his 2nd season. I want him to last the season. I want him to be given the time and to trust the process and everything, because I do see, signs that we can become a good team if the right players are implemented in the right positions. But the stats are not lying at the moment. He's on a worse win percentage than Mourinho, Pochettino and Conte. We're having a worse start to the season right now than when Pochettino got sacked, and Pochettino had a lot of goodwill in the bank. We don't win against top 10 teams. We just don't. I think 1 win against top teams since December 2023. So he needs to start picking up these results very quickly. Otherwise, it could be a very slippery slope.
If this continues, he will be gone. That's the reality. If we've lost 7 of the last 11 games, the only teams we have beaten are Everton, Everton who've lost every game, Burnley, who we relegated, and Sheffield United, who were already relegated. Those are the only 3 teams we've beaten in the last 11 games. That is majorly worrying. There's no getting around that. There is absolutely no getting around that. And if he doesn't turn that around quickly, then he won't last much longer, because as much as all the goodwill he's had, I guarantee you the board expect us to be in a top 4 challenge and probably expect us to be getting in that top 4. And if he doesn't do that, he'll be gone. Yeah. And all this talk of a project and process and all this stuff, they'll be out the window. It'll be thrown away, and we'll go for someone else, because you can't have that kind of form and have that prolong and expect to carry on in a job, especially a big club like Spurs. And yes, I want Ange to do well, and I think watching us play, I do see what he's trying to do, and I do see where we need to improve, and all this kind of stuff. But if he can't do it, then it's all well and good saying all this stuff. If he keeps on these kind of results, he won't last much longer, to be honest. He won't. I said at the beginning of the season, if he gets off to a bad start, there's going to be a lot of pressure building on him, and I think we're starting to see it already.
I would, if results still carry on going this way, I would, me personally, like to see the club act how Arsenal acted with Arteta, with the 8 losses in a row, 2 8th place finishes. I want to see us stick with this process, even if it carries on going badly. I think we have to stick with this process. I do think, Ange can be and is the right manager to take us forward. So even if it is through the bad times, we still need to stick with it, in my opinion. And I know this board too well that they will pull that trigger, won't they?
Well, it's late October, early November. That's a dangerous time to be a Tottenham manager.
It really is.
It's a dangerous time,
especially if you're not getting good results. But
exactly, because that's a lot. History tells us we do like to change managers around that. It's either that or around March time, when we still see when we feel like, if we just have a good late run with a manager bounce, we can still make top 4 kind of thing.
I just hope the hierarchy don't think that we should be further along in the project at this moment in time. People still got to remember the club that Postecoglou took over a year ago, just over a year ago, just losing Harry Kane, the whole squad needing a complete rebuild. A lot of these players are completely new to this team in their first year or their second year. So you got fans and the hierarchy need to realise where we're at as a football club right now. And when we're trying to pit it against Arsenal, who have stuck with the process for 5-6 years now, however long it's been, they're just they're light years ahead of us. That's the reality of the situation right now. So when we're trying to compare ourselves, there is no comparison right now between Tottenham Hotspur and Arsenal, and that is just the hard-hitting reality. Just silence, pure silence. I'm sorry, but that's the facts, and we need to stick with it if we want to get there, because we won't get there without sticking with a project.
Correct, and that's what we need to do. The problem is, Andrew's never been a long-term project guy.
No, because he's always fulfilled in his projects before. He always fulfills and then leaves. I think he will want to stick around to fulfill what he needs to fulfill here, to win a trophy, to get us fighting at the top. And I think he will be willing to stick around here until that happens, whether it be a short time or a long time.
Let's talk about Andrew's comment after the game then, because I don't know, you can look at it 2 ways. Obviously, he was very bullish with how he reacted. He was asked, the reporter said, you usually win things in your second season. He said, I don't usually win, I always win.
I always win, mate.
In my second season. But he also said something quite worrying. He said something about, he was talking about the players, have they lost a bit of belief or conviction, and it's his job to turn that around. But why 4 games into the season is that happening? Why is he questioning whether they lost conviction or belief? Because surely this is the time of the season where you should be 100% going all with the manager, especially if this is a manager who you really believed in last season and you really think is you really believe his methods are the way forward. Why 4 games into the season are we questioning whether the players have lost belief or conviction? Well, that's got to be a worrying sign, isn't it?
I'm looking at the team yesterday, though. I don't see a team that have lost belief or conviction.
That's what Andrew's saying.
I don't think they have, though. I think is it out of frustration, those comments? Because when you're looking forget Ange's comments, but when you're looking at that team yesterday, can you name me one player that you think has lost belief or conviction? The only one that potentially I can maybe look at is Romero. Apart from that, I don't think anyone has.
Well, this is Ange just as a manager, this is him saying it.
But I'm asking you, do you think, are you looking at that team and saying, like, these players have lost belief?
I think in the last half an hour, yes. I think when Arsenal conceded, I definitely saw a loss of belief, I would have to say, in the last 25 minutes.
But I don't think that's a belief of what Ange is trying to do. That's a belief of actually breaking down this Arsenal team, who are the best defence in the country.
And that's not what you want when you're trying to change that, have that mentality shift. You can't, especially in a London derby when you've got time on your side, you can't lose belief that you can get back in the game. And maybe we did do that in the last 25 minutes. I think I agree with you especially the first half, or for the first hour or so. I did think these players were up for it. They were, snapping at the heels of Arsenal. They were getting those challenges in, and we were creating good openings. But that stopped as soon as Arsenal scored. I feel like as soon as they scored, we didn't believe we could get back in the game.
But we said it in our previews to the game. If we go 1-0 down in this game, it's going to be incredibly difficult, nigh on impossible to get back into this game. That's what we said in the build-up to this game, and that's what played out.
And but when it comes to his comments, I always win in the second season. Yes, they're bullish, and it does show his confidence in himself. But is it not reminiscent of like Mourinho or Conte, what they used to say when they were manager here? I'm a winner, I always win, kind of thing.
This is reality. They are winners. They are winners. Conte.
But didn't they get criticism for having that kind of mentality when you're trying to build something? Has Ange not just put pressure on himself by saying that?
Look, it can go one of two ways, isn't it? He either wins and everyone goes back to that comment and being like, you're right, or he doesn't win anything and he gets trolled. The memes come out and everything comes out. But I think there are defining factors why we haven't won under Conte, why we haven't won under Mourinho, and probably why we won't win under Postecoglou. Conte was never given the tools to do anything here. He does a miracle and gets us in the top 4, and then he gets Clement Longley and all these kind of players. If we backed Conte with the way that we backed Ange Postecoglou, and we have this squad under Antonio Conte, I have no question in my mind we would have gone on and bettered what we did the season before under Antonio Conte. Jose Mourinho, for all his flaws, we sacked him 3 days before a cup final. And Ange Postecoglou, we're not giving him the attacking players that he wants. So it's in a weird way, we've got the team that Conte needs right now.
But are we not giving the attacking players he wants?
Maybe he needs. We don't have the required quality. Maybe that's a flaw in Ange Postecoglou. Maybe, but we don't have the required ability to take us on to the next level in the front line.
Well, on this evidence, we don't. That's true, but Ange has to live and die by that.
Ange has final say on these transfers. Well, he said that.
I felt like he signed Werner straight after the season ended. That's him.
These players are his players, 100%, and he's going to have to take the flak if it doesn't go well.
Right? Is it if it doesn't go well, but people are going to, is it right to blame the board when they have they not backed him?
No. To be fair, under Postecoglou, he has been backed. The other two haven't been backed. You're trying to compare them to Mourinho and Conte. I think those are the real. Mourinho and Conte are certified winners. They weren't given what they need to go and do the job. Ange Postecoglou, it remains to be seen. You're asking, is it comparable to those two? Where I don't really think it is.
Fair enough. I'm hoping the pressure's not getting to him. I feel like when managers get like that, they only start, backing their own record and stuff like that in previous jobs when the pressure starts getting to them, and that's what I think we saw a bit of Mourinho and Conte. And was there signs of the pressure getting to Ange there with him saying that?
Definitely, I think the pressure is getting to Ange a bit at the moment, and it's up to him to turn it around.
Look, it's still early on the season. There's still a lot of football to be played. People say it's our worst start to the season since Pochettino's second season, and look what happened there. We turned it around, and we ended up going on a title charge that year. So, nothing's lost. Nothing's. You can't. It's not all done after 4 games, but considering how we ended last season, definitely, he's under pressure to turn it around quickly.
But he has to be given the time. Even if he can't turn it around over the next month or so, he has to be given the time to fulfill what he needs to do at this football club. Because if he doesn't, then it's just a carry-on of everything that we've been through over the past 7 years. We bring in a manager, we don't let him implement his ideas for a long amount of time, and they get sacked, and then we're on to the next one, and the same thing's going to happen. The revolving door that is Tottenham Hotspur. We need to stick with him. We have to. We've got no other option.
Agreed.
That is your match review. As much as, well, I don't know how long that was, about an hour that we were going at it for. But we're going to go into the player ratings up next. And we're going to start off with Vicario. 6s all round for Big Vic. And yeah, he was fairly weak for the goal that we did concede, and he should be coming for it, but I don't think full blame goes on him for the goal. However, the good things, you know, I think he dealt with everything else that came his way, and yeah, he was hardly untested, to be honest.
Hardly untested.
Hardly tested.
He made a good save from Havertz in the first half. That was off when Havertz won a header. Apart from that header, obviously he made an easy save from Martinelli. Didn't have too much to do, but I did think he struggled from set pieces, I have to say. He flapped at one badly in the first half, where that could have easily cost us if there was an Arsenal player arriving in the back post. And in the second half, for the goal, I mean, it's just when a corner comes in, dropping right outside the 6-yard box, you've just got to be strong as a keeper there, and you've got to come for it, and you've got to try and get something on that. You can't allow an Arsenal player a free header from that position. As a keeper in the Premier League, if you're not coming for that, then we've got a serious problem. So Vicario, it's been a problem now for at least 6 months, and he's just got to work on being stronger in these situations.
Thing is, though, I have felt with Vicario, maybe prior to this game, he has been a lot more commanding from set pieces and corners.
Yeah, he's been this season. Look, to be fair, everyone's going on about our set pieces. The first one we conceded from this season, so yeah, that's something to mention. Yeah,
and also, you're coming up against the team that are best of set pieces in the league. Next up, Pedro Porro, 6s all round. I thought Porro actually put in a really good display for the most part in this game, but he was found wanting a bit from the attack down that left-hand side. I did think he got burnt a couple of times, but you know, he was trying to impact stuff at both ends of the pitch, and he was being really aggressive, putting in those challenges. He goes down from that challenge from Timber, which I thought he made a bit of a meal from, to say the least. But it was never a sending off.
Yeah, we didn't talk about it. I think we'll talk about it in reacts. But yeah, I didn't have a massive problem with Porro. I thought by and large he played really well. Martinelli did get the better of him on one occasion, especially when he got in and had that chance. Apart from that, I actually think he was aggressive. He was good in possession. In the final third, I actually thought he was he was probably the least of the culprits when it came to the bad deliveries. I thought his deliveries were probably better than his teammates, so I thought he did okay, but knowing Porro, I think he's got a bit more to give in the final third, so I only gave him a 6.
Yeah, his crossing was really frustrating me, to be honest, and you know, like, he's our best crosser of the ball in the team, and you expect him with Dom Solanke in the middle of the park to put in better crosses. But to be fair, whenever we were putting in crosses, it felt like Solanke was the only guy in there. We weren't getting men into the box. How could you ask Dom Solanke to fight off Saliba and Gabriel at the same time? Like, you need men in the box. Kuti Romero up next. Sim gives him a 4. I gave him a 5. I felt like there were times that he was performing really well with his clearances, his tackles, being aggressive. But you got to look at it. The 2 biggest chances that we conceded throughout the game both came from him. The corner, he should be tracking Gabriel, and the one where Martinelli goes through, I don't know what he's doing. He just gets completely caught out. So Romero's had a very bad season so far. Every goal that we've conceded has come from his mishap. So he needs to sort himself out quickly. Yeah,
he's costing us. He's costing us goals. He's costing us points at the moment, and it's deeply frustrating because he does a lot of good things, and he did a lot of good things yesterday. But when it came to certain moments, he's being too rash, he's being caught out, and he's losing concentration, and that's unforgivable. The corner was unforgivable, how he defended that corner, completely unforgivable. You're tasked with patrolling Arsenal's biggest set piece threat, and you're allowing him to get behind you. You're allowing him to see your shirt number, which should never be happening when you're defending from a set piece, and you're allowing him to bully you. And you're supposed to be this big hard man who, you know, when you're playing for Argentina, nothing gets past you. And then he's putting on a Spurs shirt and he's being weak, and he's being caught out, and he's losing concentration. And I don't know what's going on with him at the moment, but something needs to change with him, because he's just costing us too many goals at the moment. And there's a case that he should be taken out of the team. I know he does a lot of good stuff, and I know he's probably still our best defender, but when you're making mistakes like he is in the moment, defenders have been dropped for less. So he's got to change.
What message does it send to Radu if he doesn't get taken out of the team? Because we've got a willing and able defender to step in his place.
Yeah.
So we need to send out the right message. And I'm sorry, I would drop Romero. I think he definitely comes out for this Carabao Cup game in midweek. But I would, if Radu has a good game against Coventry, which I'm sure he will, I keep Radu in the team next week against Brentford.
Yeah.
Next up, Mickey van der Ven. Sim gives him a 7. I gave him an 8. I thought he was our best player on the day. He was a man mountain, particularly in the first half, winning the ball in the air consistently. Nothing got past him throughout the day. He was progressing the ball up as well. I thought he put in a top display.
Yeah, I think he was definitely the best defender on the day, and they struggled to deal with him, to be honest. I think they couldn't really get in behind him. He was chasing back. He was doing a lot of good covering. I think in the first half, he was doing some good stuff aerially, but did struggle a bit against Havertz in the second half when the balls were going straight directly to him. But I thought he was aggressive. There was a number of times as well he was starting us off on counter-attacks. I thought he had a really good game. So, yeah, gave him a 7.
Next up, Destiny Udogie. Sim gives him a 7. I gave him a 5. A bit of a difference in opinion here. I felt like Udogie did start well and he was being really aggressive. He was winning a lot of duels. But then I felt very quickly after that yellow card, he just didn't seem to have the same impact, and he was shying away from challenges. He wasn't being that bull in a china shop that we know from Destiny Udogie, and I just felt like he was really flat for about probably from the yellow card onwards.
Yeah, you got to remember he's dealing with Bukayo Saka on that side, and he kept him pretty quiet throughout the game. So I've got to give him a lot of credit for that. I think Saka barely impacted the game on that side, and I think a lot of that was down to how aggressive and how strong the doggy was. I think going forward, he didn't really offer too much. Maybe he was hanging back a bit, and I thought when he was inverting, didn't really affect the game in a positive way. He wasn't able to charge into space like we like to see a doggy do. But I think by and large, he had a pretty good game. I think he dealt with Saka really well, so I gave him a 7.
Rodrigo Bentancur up next. Him gives him a 6. I gave him a 5. Again, I thought he started off the game really well. He also got that yellow card in the first half, which I felt impacted him. But he wasn't... For someone like Bentancur in the number 6, we need him to, kind of dictate the play and really charge up the pitch. And I don't think he did that. I think whenever he got the ball, he just kept it simple and didn't really help us on the attacking phase of the game.
Yeah, him playing in the 6, I don't think on the ball he carried it as well as like someone like Basuma would, and maybe he didn't commit players like Basuma has potential to. I think off the ball it was decent but not exceptional. Look, to be fair, given how Arsenal set up, he didn't have to be exceptional in terms of defensively, but he did get caught out a couple of times. Obviously got booked once, and then he was looking quite tired, I felt, in that second half. Yeah. That's why he was taken off a Papsar. So I don't think it was terrible, but wasn't nothing spectacular either. So I gave him a 6.
Decky up next. 7's all round for Dayan, and carry on his good form so far this season. He was our most dangerous outlet going forward for sure. He kept winning the ball back high up the pitch. He was, I think he probably had our most shots throughout the day. Maybe Dom Solanke did, but he had the most meaningful ones. Attempts at goal that forced Raya out of saves. He tried one from about 25-30 yards towards the end of the game that just went just over the bar, and if he scores that, you're talking about an absolute worldie to save the day for Tottenham. But at least someone tried it. We need someone to try something in that moment at the time, and it was Kulusevski that did that. But I did feel like he was wasteful in the final third.
Yeah, that was really frustrating. Obviously, he came close right at the end, didn't he? With that strike, it was a decent effort, but wasn't close enough. I felt like he was the one most likely to make something happen. I think all our best stuff came from him. He had that shot that Raya saved. He had the cross which Johnson flicked on. He was the one winning the ball in the really dangerous areas, which set up some really good opportunities. But unfortunately, nothing came of it. He'll be really frustrated that he couldn't do more with some of his good work. And I think he was finding really good pockets of space. I thought when he was on the ball, they really struggled to get the ball off him and really struggled to deal with him. But he'll be frustrated. He didn't do enough in terms of when he found himself in the really good positions. Those little final bits of quality were missing from him. So that was really frustrating. But I want to definitely persist with him in the 8 right now because he's our most consistent player.
Yeah. James Maddison up next. 5's all round for Madders. And, particularly when we needed him the most, he didn't really really show up. I felt like there were some good signs from him in the first half, where he was getting the ball, he was winning the ball, but he just wasn't creative enough, to be honest. And for a player like Maddison, and for how deep Arsenal were, just take a few shots, man. The guy did not take one shot throughout the whole time he was on the pitch, and it was just so frustrating to see. He got taken off, and rightly so, but you got to bring Bergvall in that moment to bring on some creativity. But for all the talk that Maddison gave before the game, he failed to deliver.
Yeah, I thought he was doing, as you said, in the first half there were some good moments from him. It was a good ball to the back post for Solanke, who had a header, and he was finding some really good areas. I thought his pressing was decent as well, but there was just no real. I never really felt like, unlike with Dijk, I never really felt like he was going to make something too much happen.
He was busy. That was about it.
Yeah, he was busy, but a lot of the time when he had opportunities to get deliveries in, it was lacking quality, overhitting them and putting them out of play and stuff like that. It was ultimately a really frustrating day for Madders. Didn't really provide the quality we needed him to provide. His set pieces were all right. Actually, people were complaining about his short corners, but I thought actually they created a few moments from those short corners. So I don't mind them as long as they're creating something. Obviously, Van de Ven had a chance, which his header was saved by Real from a good cross from Maddison. So. Second half I had a big problem with him. I thought he was just anonymous in that second half, and I thought probably rightly taken off. I just wouldn't brought on Werner for him. The most annoying thing is probably when we needed him most was those last 10 minutes to really pick the lock, and that's when we took him off. So wasn't a good day for him.
Brennan Johnson up next. Sim gives him a 3. I gave him a 4. And really frustrating day for Brennan on the right-hand side of the attack. He did take on Timber a couple of times, but I felt like there was just one point in the game where he just said, you know what, I'm not taking you on anymore. I'm just going to check back every time. A couple of crosses. I think he got 1 or 2 crosses in throughout the whole of the time he was on the pitch, which is nowhere near good enough in this system. The crosses that he did get in were shocking. And he had a shot or 2 throughout the game, but didn't really test Raya too much. And it's just a constant theme now with Brennan Johnson. 3 starts, 3 shockers.
Yeah, I thought he was so frustrating on the day. He had the most frustrating thing is he was probably the one getting all the space. He was the one getting on the ball a lot. He saw a lot of the ball in this one, especially on the right hand side in one-on-one situations to face up Timber. And in every single occasion, he just wasn't able to do a single thing. Wasn't able to cause one problem for Arsenal. It was so easy. I don't know how many crosses Timber dealt with on the day, but it seemed like every time Johnson wanted to get a cross in, Timber just blocking it every single time, which is not good enough in this level of position. He didn't have any variety to his game. He didn't change up. He had a couple of half chances in the first half as well. One he blazed over the bar and one which fell to him, and he had a shot blocked from it, which was another promising moment for him. So ultimately, there was a severe lack of quality there, and he just wasn't able to provide any real moments for us when he had a lot of opportunities to. So really, really, really frustrating day for Brennan.
Sonny next. 5s all round for Sonny, unfortunately. Our captain on the day, and you know what you're going to get from Sonny in terms of work rate and effort, and you definitely saw that. I felt like he was better than Brennan on the left-hand side. At least he was taking on Ben White, and he actually got the better of him a couple of times. The crosses that he was putting in the box as well was slightly better than Brennan, but still weren't able to pick out anyone. He did have a few successful passes that we were able to really hurt Arsenal with, but the lack of conviction really at the end of it. But I just feel like Sonny's just completely getting hung out to dry in this system.
He's just wasted. I feel like he's wasted is the word I would use in the being a touchline winger. That's not how you get the best out of his best attributes, which is scoring goals and getting shots off. And he just wasn't. We weren't able to find him anywhere near enough in those situations. He did start off the game brightly, and in fact, one of his best moments when he was a bit more central, when he could do that cut back to Dijk, who had a shot saved. That was him in the box. One of the few times we probably did see Son in the box. And I think come the second half, we knew we needed to change it because we moved him inside. We moved him up front for the last half an hour. Wasn't able to get on, last 50 minutes or so. But when he's on the left-hand side and you're asking him to, take on his fullback, be relentless on the left-hand side, get crossed in the box, he's just not that kind of player. I mean, he can do it to a decent standard, but it's not good enough to make this system really as effective as it should be.
He's doing it better than Brennan.
And he's not as effective he's not as effective as he could be in a different position. So it's just not we're not getting the most out of him. And I feel like he's wasting that on the left-hand side.
The last of the starting 11, Dominic Solanke on his home debut. Sim gives him a 6. I gave him a 5. And to be fair, he was giving Saliba a bit of a hard time physically. I thought he stood up to that challenge fairly well at times.
Got him booked as well, didn't he?
Got him booked, yeah, exactly. So I thought in that aspect of the game, I thought he was doing pretty well. But our best 2 chances fall for him, and he's got to be doing better. Again, our best 2 chances against Leicester fall to Dominic Solanke, and he's got to be doing better. So he needs to find that killer mentality where he gets those chances and he puts at least one of them away. Because if we go 1-0 up at that stage of the game, it's a completely different game. And who knows what happens from there. But I just felt like a lot of the times he was just in the box by himself and the team just were not helping him. So that's no fault of his own, but he was just dealing off scraps most of the time.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest issue. The delivery into him was woeful, and he wasn't really able to get any joy inside the box. I thought outside of the box, actually, in the build-up and his hold-up play was actually pretty impressive. He was able to hold off Saliba and Gabriel a few times, and that's no mean feat. They're 2 very strong centre-backs, and I thought he competed really well. He was winning some aerial duels as well early on. When he was dropping deep, and his pressing was also pretty good. But as soon as he got into the penalty box, he just wasn't able to make any sort of impact. And then his big chance came when that intercepted fell into his path. He had so much time to get a shot off inside the box. He just waited way too long to get the shot off. Maybe it's a match fitness problem, I'm not sure, but he really struggled to really create a real promising opportunity. He nearly scored with a fantastic looping header, which would have been an unbelievable goal, but unfortunately just went wide for him. But he'll be really disappointed with that chance, because if that ball's falling to you, and you don't even muster an opportunity, that's a really worrying sign.
Yeah. Let's move on to the substitutes. Pape Matar Sarr, 5s, came on in the 6, and look, he saw quite a bit of the ball, didn't he? But I felt like they asked him to be like one of our main creators on the pitch. And he was getting the ball, he was trying to make stuff happen, but it's just not his game. And maybe it would have been better to start him or not. I'm unsure on that, but he just failed to make an impact when he came on.
I don't think I liked him in the 6, to be honest. I think where he was good was he does cover a lot of ground, and I think he was coming forward quite a bit. He actually made some bad decisions when he took a couple of shots where he probably shouldn't have, albeit we were probably desperate at that point.
One of the shots he took, though, you never know what was going to happen. Timo Werner blocked it and he was offside.
But I didn't like him when he was coming deep and looking to pick the ball off the centre-backs. I thought he didn't have enough awareness around him. He nearly got caught on a couple of occasions. He just didn't look comfortable in those situations. So didn't think he was that great on that point, but I thought he was okay coming forward, but didn't have enough quality to make a real difference.
Yeah. Wilson Odobert came on at the same time as well. Sim gives him a 5, I gave him a 4. And again, I thought he just failed to make an impact against a really strong, sitting deep Arsenal midfield and defence. And he didn't. I think he took one blocked shot throughout the day. He tried to put in one cross, and I thought it was completely awful. And he didn't take on his man or try and attack his man either. So I failed to see what he brought to the team.
Yeah, it didn't do much when he came on, to be honest. Looked threatening, but I think what he should have been doing, which he did a couple of times, was just drive inside Timber and look for some combinations with Decky and whoever else was in the middle and try and get some combos going, which he's much better at than Brennan. He looked to do that a couple of times, but it didn't really come off for him. The only frustrating thing is he got the ball on a couple of occasions on the right side and didn't swing it in when maybe he could have, and his delivery didn't look fantastic. But again, I don't think his best position's on the right. It looks more of a left winger. So I don't know. I think he was all right. But I don't think he did anything much, to be honest.
Timo Werner, last but not least from the playing staff, Sim gives him a 2. I gave him a 4, and a really frustrating day, or 10 minutes, shall I say, for Timo Werner. And look, I thought when Timo first came on, he actually... his first few actions were pretty good. He was winning the ball back quite aggressively and did well. But the 10 minutes is always going to be remembered for that stupid pass that pretty much played Arsenal through, and that block where Sarr takes a shot and Werner's in an offside position and he blocks the shot. So very frustrating. He was being told to be the answer to get us back into this game, and he was anything but. I think it was a big mistake from Ange to bring him on.
Yeah, I didn't understand why take off Maddison for Werner as well. A couple of times he got down the left-hand side and his delivery was terrible and straight into the keeper's arms. I just thought it was a bit of a disaster class from Timo Werner, to be honest. To be fair to him, though, when he did give away the pass, he did win it. He did take it upon himself to win it back, and he did win it back. So go credit there, which is maybe not why he's more than a 1. But I thought it was a bit of a disaster class from him, to be honest.
Yeah. Next up, last but not least, is Ange Postecoglou. 5s all round from us. And, if it was this game in isolation, maybe he gets bigger marks because we did dictate the game. We were asking a few questions of Arsenal. We were looking really bright in those opening half an hour. But it's carrying on a consistent theme now where we're getting the lion's share of possession in the game, but we can't seem to muster up any sort of meaningful chances in the game. And I felt like Ange needs to take the flak for that. He needs to take the flak for not getting Son in the right positions in the games. He needs to take the flak for taking off Maddison and not bringing on a creator in the last 10 minutes when we're 1-0 down in the North London derby. So I thought there was a number of decisions Ange got wrong on the day, and we lose the game in the North London derby. That's 3 in a row. I don't think he's won a London derby against West Ham, Chelsea or West Ham so far in the Spurs shirt, Arsenal, Chelsea or West Ham. And that's 2 in a row at home. And I don't ever remember, we've lost 3 in a row in total, and I don't ever remember I don't think it's ever happened in the history of North London derbies, losing 3 in a row at home.
Yeah, unacceptable. And it's just the fact we look so blunt. The pattern of the game was so predictable, and we still couldn't fight against the tide. I feel for him in certain moments because I thought the pressing was really good, and we should have created more out of those pressing moments. And it's not his fault that Slanky took a few extra touches, or when we had a 5-on-3 and we didn't make anything of it. But the fact that we looked so slow in possession, we weren't able to ask different questions of Arsenal. We were way too blunt going forward. And the fact we conceded from another set piece, he's going to have to take the flak for that. And the fact that, you look at our form now, it's quite worrying. So, look, it's still early on. He's still got time to turn it around. But he has to take the blame for this result for sure. No doubt about it.
Yeah, and that is our player ratings from the post-mortem. That was another North London derby defeat. Let's get into some
super chats.
Yeah, let's get into some super chats. There are quite a few to get through.
Disappeared from here though. So
I've got them here. Alex Smith says, Ange out, yes or no, as many want him gone. I think that's ridiculous to say at this moment in time. Like, you got to back a manager at one point, and what are we going to do at the first sign of trouble? Sack every single manager that we get through the door? It's ridiculous. Georgiou says, damage from the last 7 seasons and 25 years of Enoch and Levy is considerable and cannot be undone in 2 seasons, and signing kids, I refuse to blame the manager. And I think that's spot on, to be honest.
I think the manager has to, blame the manager for how we started, what position we're in, or where we're going. I think there's different elements to it. I blame Ange for if you're blaming signings, I think Ange takes full responsibility, in my opinion. I don't think it's the board who were adamant on bringing Timo Werner back, and that's one of the. I think also I do think Ange probably wanted Solanke as well. Look, I'm not saying these are all duds, but I'm just saying if we're looking for someone to blame right now, I don't know I think the board have really backed Ange with a lot of fun. So I don't know if I blame Ange right now. In terms of how we've been since Pochettino, that's definitely on the board, and that's definitely on how they've approached things. And a lot of the wrongs is going to take a lot of time to right. So from that, I don't blame the manager, but I don't look at yesterday's performance and say that's on the board. I think the manager has to take responsibility for what happened yesterday.
Alex with the super chat, an Arsenal fan sending us super chats. Thank you very much for that. Says, Gabriel got shoved last season versus Newcastle and it was not a foul. Good game, guys. Small margins.
He's not wrong. I just think if Romero goes down, I just think the referee will give a foul. But he didn't. He stayed on his feet. It wasn't clever. And if you're not going to do it, you've got to make sure you bloody mark him. And he didn't mark him. So I think Romero's only got himself to blame.
Alex, again with the super chat, says, if you look at Newcastle, they played well for 20 minutes out of the 4 games and they've got 10 points. They just finished their chances. It's early. And that's the point. You need to have killer instinct. Like Conte always used to say, you need to smell the blood of the opponent. And we're just not doing that at the moment. We've just, like I said, we're trying to eat a steak with a knife. With a spoon, I mean. Espen Anderson said, I'm still slightly blinded by the first 10 matches of Ange, but is there even signs of progression since then? I mean, like, I'm getting tired of going back to these first 10 games of Ange. I mean, we're a year on from that now. Yeah. We're a year on. And look, like I say, I want to back this process. I want to back Ange Postecoglou, and I will back Ange Postecoglou. But we need to be on the upward trajectory at the moment. And maybe we are in terms of level of performances in the first 4 games, but we can't seem to get chances and score goals, and that's what Ange prides himself on.
As I say, I think it's the difference how we're playing, or the improvements are bring new challenges, and we're struggling to get over those challenges at the moment. Doesn't mean we can't, but I think we're definitely struggling at the moment to overcome the challenges that more possession and more control is giving us.
And Amir, big up Amir, Israel Uncovered. He says that big up everyone. Ange, please wake up and change your system and tactics. It's simply not working. Let's dust ourselves off and go and beat Coventry emphatically. It'll be nice, wouldn't it?
That'll be nice, yeah. I don't think they need wholesale changes of the tactics. I just think it needs little tweaks and to make us more effective. And I think good managers will do that. And hopefully he does that too. And if he doesn't, and we're still seeing the same results, he's going to have to take the blame for it.
Yeah. Member for 42 months, Amir, so big up to yourself. I think it's time. Let's get into a Tottenham update, because actually Fabrizio Romano has just done an update talking about Ange Postecoglou and his future at Spurs. Where is it? He says, Ange Postecoglou is not in any danger of losing his job despite Tottenham's slow start to the season. The club's project is still centred around Ange Postecoglou. Even if it has been a difficult start to the season for Tottenham, they are 100% trusting the manager, which I think is it's great, but it's not great that these things need to be said.
Definitely. And I always think it's a worrying thing when these things have to be said, even if it's
the vote of no confidence.
The dreaded vote of confidence. But obviously, look, of course, 4 games in, you'll be stupid not to trust him right now and back him and move forward with him. But as I say, we've lost 7 of the last 11. If that run continues, then I can definitely see that tune changing. But I think for now, that's got to be the party line. And look, it's 4 games in. It's a long season. Let's see how we can bounce back from this. But of course, these results can't continue.
Yeah, we've got our next 3 games in the league are Brentford, Man U and Brighton, right? Let's say we only pick up 3 points against Brentford and then lose against Man U and lose against Brighton. Will the board hold their bottle?
I don't think he'll be sacked, but I think he'll be under real big pressure.
And then you start hearing from the Athletic, the training is too hard for these players. You know what I mean? Next up, we're going to talk about Noah Okafor of Milan. And a Milan publication says that Tottenham have told AC Milan they are willing to offer 20 million euros plus bonuses for Noah Okafor. The deal has a good chance of happening, and negotiations between the 2 clubs are expected to heat up over the next few weeks.
Yeah, how's he doing at Milan at the moment, Noah Okafor? Because I know he was a lot of talk about him before he went to Milan.
He was at Salzburg, right?
And was it Basel? Was he at it was at Basel. Basel, then Salzburg. I mean, he was a promising player. I don't think he's developed amazingly at Milan, but he's not done terribly. He's now 24. He got 6 goals last season. I remember being very excited about him at Salzburg, but maybe Tottenham looking at it thinking, because he didn't have a great start, maybe Milan were willing to get rid for a cheaper price. But I mean, 25 million would be a cheaper price. But I don't know. I don't know if he's the answer to all our problems.
Yeah, and we've got a lot of them.
Yeah.
But what's he done this season? He's played 4 games, scored a goal. Has he been starting for Milan? I mean, I know Milan haven't had a great start to the season, but they won 4-0 on the weekend against the team that just got promoted. He started 2 games and come off the bench in 1 game.
He only started 6 games last year.
6 games. Yeah.
Showing he's not really trusted there, is he?
Yeah. But, Kulusevski and Bentancur weren't... well, I guess Bentancur was, but Kulusevski was completely out of the team at Juventus when we signed him.
At the time, but he's never been in the team in Milan, that's the point.
Is this his 2nd season?
Yeah.
So last year was his 1st season, and he was brought in as a young player to make his name.
I mean, he's only 23. He's not that young.
At 23 last season. Well, we say Brendan Johnson's a young player at 22.
I'm saying 23 is not that young, though. It's not like he's a youngster.
Yeah.
At 23.
True. Well, they do have Rafael Leao in his position. Next up, we're going to... Do I want Noah Okafor? Not particularly. Let's talk about Brennan Johnson now, because Brennan Johnson deactivated his Instagram account yesterday on the back of apparently abuse that was coming his way on the back of his performance in the North London derby, which I think is, look, obviously we've criticised his performance on here quite openly, and we've criticised his start of the season as well. But when it turns into abuse and personal abuse and all this kind of stuff, it's just a step way too far, and I don't understand why this ever comes to light.
Yeah, I don't get what Tottenham fans are expecting. You're just going to send him a load of abuse and he's going to start scoring. Like, why feel the need to do that? I mean, it's so unnecessary, and it's disgraceful. It's disgusting, really. It's a young player trying his best. I've criticised his performance. I know he didn't play well, but I wouldn't go and send his abuse or DM him on Instagram, calling him every name under the sun just because he didn't have a good game. He's trying his best to improve. He knows what he needs to do to improve, and we just need to give him a bit more time. And whatever, even if he's not good enough for Spurs, doesn't mean that you need to abuse him. You need to send all this horrible stuff to him. Like, why do you feel the need to do that? It's only people who feel bad about themselves who feel the need to send Johnson like personal abuse. There's one thing calling him out on a public platform saying, I don't think you're good enough, all that stuff, whatever. That's just football chat. But to go over to his account and start calling him out and start abusing him, I mean, it's completely uncalled for.
Yeah. Totally agree. Couldn't agree more. We spoke about this a bit in the match review, but I'm going to bring it up again now, as Romero did retweet a post from Gaston Edul claiming that the defender played versus Arsenal with a fever and bemoaning the fact that he had to make his own travel plans to return from international duty. And I'm thinking, like, this guy is on 150 grand a week, and yeah, fine, Spurs maybe should be following other clubs suit and making sure they get back as early as possible and travel in the most luxury as possible. But I guarantee you, we ain't traveling back in the economy. You know what I mean? Like, the guy is earning crazy amounts of money. If the club don't put on a private jet to bring him back, put on your own bloody private jet to come back if you think so much about it.
Yeah, I think, first of all, I reckon Gaston Edul probably got this information for Romero. The fact that he retweeted it would indicate that. So clearly Romero's must be complaining about that. And for me, I just think it doesn't sit well with me, or doesn't speak of a good sign, the fact that Romero's like being this petty with these complaints. I don't think if all is well, he'd be doing that. So I'm starting to worry that something's going on behind the scenes with him. And obviously, coupled with the fact that he keeps making lapses of concentration on the pitch and costing us goals. When he goes off to Argentina, he seems to be playing still as well as he ever was. There's something in the air with Romero at the moment. But the reality is, we can talk about, maybe his head's in Madrid and stuff, but he keeps playing like this. He won't be going to Madrid. Yeah, that's the truth. So if he wants that big move, he's got to be on top of his game. Otherwise, he won't get all these big moves.
To be fair, do you not think, like, if he carries on his performances at international level and still smashing it at Argentina, I think he probably will still get the move.
I don't know. I think you're only as good as your last season, and a lot of the time. And if he's continually having these lapses in concentration and costing us week in, week out, Madrid aren't going to pay big money for him. They're not going to stump up the cash for him. He's going to need to prove that he's good enough for Madrid, and I think he is good enough for Madrid personally when he's at his best. But if he's gonna be spitting his dummy out the pram and all this kind of let whatever talk. I don't know if it is Madrid. We're obviously just speculating, but people have been questioning why his performances have been, why he keeps having these lapses in concentration. People obviously will speculate about these things, and I just think when you start hearing these petty complaints like that, I had to play with a fever. Why aren't Spurs paying for my travel from international duty, all this kind of stuff? When you start complaining about that indicates that something's not right there with the club. Because I think if he was playing well and everything was fine behind the scenes, I don't think you start complaining about these stupid things.
When you're talking about Spurs not paying for his travel and putting on a private jet, I mean, the tweet did say that other clubs do that to bring players back from South America. And whether you agree with Romero coming out and retweeting this post after the game, surely Spurs should be doing that if other clubs are doing it.
It's not like they're short of money, is it?
Yeah.
They can definitely afford to pay. I know what Spurs think. They're not travelling for our games, so why should we pay for it? So I understand that. But
they are travelling for our games. They're coming back for our games.
They're coming back for our games, yeah. I think they should pay for it. I think I've got enough money to pay for it. But I don't know. I don't know what the details are. Should Argentina be paying for the flight back, or they're flying out for an Argentina game, so should Argentina be sorting out all the travel? I don't know. That's a different ball game. But if all the other clubs are sorting it, I mean, there's probably a reason for that.
Yeah, and in terms of him playing with a fever and stuff, like surely you shouldn't be complaining about that after the game if you've made yourself available for selection.
Seems like an excuse to me. Like all of a sudden, because he was at fault for the goal, he was forced to play with a fever. Well, he's fine saying that in hindsight, but if that was a real issue, then say before the game and make sure you're not put yourself on the bench or something, and make sure there's someone who's 100% fit playing. Because if you can't just come out and hide saying, "Oh, I actually had a fever, so I shouldn't have been playing." I mean, that's what he's insinuating. He doesn't say that. He just say maybe he wants appreciation the fact that he played through a fever or something. But I'm just saying, if you're not 100%, then let the club know that you're not feeling well, and someone else can take your place. Don't be strong for the team. Don't think you're doing us a favour by playing with a fever.
Yeah, and we did hear last week. We spoke about potential contract negotiations for Cuti Romero. I just feel like I agree with you. I think there's something brewing here with Romero.
Yeah, you don't make these complaints unless there is something brewing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm worried about. Look, let's hope we can put this all behind us and he starts playing well again. But these little petty complaints that I just feel like if everything's okay, you don't make them.
Yeah, and he's always like the first to come out on social media as well after the game saying, "Oh, we didn't win this one, but if this team..." I know, I'm saying like he's always the first one to do these kind of posts, but I just feel like that's his media team just trying to spin a narrative kind of thing. And last but not least, we're going to talk about David Pleat again, because we heard a lot of discourse after David Pleat lost his job at Spurs, and Spurs didn't put his book in the shop and everything like that. But apparently the Trust, Martin from the Trust, has come out and said that Tottenham are now supporting David Pleat in his bid to raise money through his book for motor neuron disease charities, and also did host him for the North London derby. So classic Spurs, when they get pushed back on social media,
then all of a sudden
they go back on the wrongs that they did.
But fair play to the fans who do give the pushback and force Tottenham to do something, because it wasn't right. It didn't sit right with me, hearing David Pleat talk about how they wouldn't even give him a ticket for a game or anything, let alone help promote his book or anything like that. So fair play to the fans.
There must have been a ticket available.
Yeah, exactly. Someone must have pulled out last minute. So fair play to the fans who push back on it and force the club to do something.
Yeah. All right. So that is your Tottenham update. What are we going to go on to next? We're going to go on to the 5 takeaways and see what 5 things we can take away from the 1-0 defeat to Arsenal. And the first one is wide issues.
Yeah, and obviously this is no surprise that we're having problems from wide areas. And yesterday, talking about Son and Johnson specifically, they were to be fair, with all the congestion there was in the centre of the park, and Arsenal very specifically forcing Tottenham out wide, a lot of the onus was on Son and Johnson to really provide moments of quality and intent in those positions. But they only completed 1 cross between them, and they only completed 2 dribbles. I think both of them were from Son, and they were both also when he moved more centrally as well. One was out wide, one was when he moved centrally. So they only completed 1 dribble from out wide. And when you're looking to hurt Arsenal and ask different questions of them, that is just nowhere near good enough. When it comes to looking for those moments of quality in the wide areas. And it's been a persistent theme, and it's something that we talked about last season, and we've invested in Werner again and Odegaard for this season. So, the jury, look, at the moment, there are big question marks whether we've done enough in those wide areas. In the moment, the jury's very much out on that.
Yep, and I questioned it in a massive way at the end of the transfer window and during the transfer window, and I feel like there's nothing that I can see on that pitch that suggests anything other than we've got a shortcoming in terms of the quality that we have in the forward line, and it's very frustrating to watch. Brennan Johnson in his 2nd season now, I'm expecting to see much bigger and better levels from him. Sonny, I feel like he is being hung out to dry a little bit from the tactics from Ange Postecoglou, and he needs to find a way to get Son a bit more central. I don't want to see him as a striker, but I want to see him more in central areas from that left wing position, whether that means Des Destiny Udogie going out wide and not inverting so much to let Sonny drift into those central areas, then I'm completely fine with that, and that's what I want to see.
Yeah,
but go on.
No, I would say a lot of the time we're seeing Son out wide and then Udogie underlapping.
Yeah,
like, but why
it should
not
be the
just
other way
switch
around.
Switch
It should be the other way around, and he can't be so married to inverting fullbacks that it doesn't get the best out of Sonny. That's just madness. That's just complete madness. So we need to find a way around this very, very soon. Next up, number 2, we're going to talk about Romero, cause for concern.
Yeah, and look, there's no getting around it. Romero is in a bad moment right now, a really bad moment when it comes to how we're conceding. What's really annoying is that when you look at the general play, it's not like he's being shambolic throughout all the game or anything like that. He's doing a lot of good things, but you're pointing at every single goal we conceded. Leicester, he lost Jamie Vardy at the back post, losing his concentration. The first goal against Newcastle caught up the pitch. The second goal completely caught out by Jacob Murphy, and he's caught watching the ball. And then yesterday, for the corner, completely loses Gabriel, absolute shambolic marking. And also he was rash in a moment where Martinelli went through, and he's completely rash stepping out in defence. And I know those moments where he steps out, he does a lot of good things when he wins the tackle, but when he's not winning the tackle like he did yesterday, he puts us in a lot of trouble. And then the marking from the corner, I mean, there's no excuse for it. There's absolutely no excuse for it. It's shambolic. And I know Gabriel has 2 hands on him, but he shouldn't be allowing Gabriel behind him. He shouldn't be being in a position where you're marking Gabriel and you can't see him. You can't even see the guy you're marking, who's the biggest set-piece threat in the league. It's absolutely atrocious. And Romero has to get his act together right now, because he's costing us goals week in, week out. Where I'm continually, backing him in fan debates and stuff, like saying he's one of the best defenders in the world, all this kind of stuff, and he's making me look like a mug because he's costing us goals every single week, and it's really, really getting frustrating now. I love Romero. I think he's a top quality defender, but I've got no excuse for how he's costing us goals right now. I've got nothing to say, because it's literally him right now.
Yeah, and you know what? Romero, for the most part, has actually been really good this season. It's just these moments of madness that happen in games. They're like for the Leicester game, right? He was brilliant, apart from the goal that we conceded. Against Newcastle, he was brilliant, apart from the 2 goals that we It's these small moments in games that are really, shining a bad light on him. And you know what else I find really frustrating about Romero is how slow he is on the ball. I really want him to start becoming quicker on the ball and start playing the ball. Too many times he gets the ball and then he just dawdles on it a little bit, and then suddenly the team get back in their shape, and then we're kind of under pressure again. So it's very frustrating.
Charles is very insistent that it was a foul on Romero. I do think if Romero goes down, the foul is given. I do believe that. But as I've said, he should not be allowing Gabriel behind him. The fact that Gabriel's behind him, that's already a problem. So whatever happens from then on, if he doesn't get the foul or whatever, he's only put himself in trouble. So it's his own fault.
He also says, Sim, this channel's becoming too negative.
Well, we just lost the third North London derby in a row. Get with the programme.
Number 3 is wasted pressing.
Yeah, and it's really unfortunate, because the pressing, I thought, yesterday was actually really effective, especially in Arsenal's defensive third. We actually won 5 tackles in Arsenal's attacking third yesterday, and we put ourselves in so many good opportunities to create really good openings and really good chances, and I just felt we wasted so many good chances. This is what Andrew was saying after the game. He said, in terms of the opportunities we had, he said we had a lot of opportunities to create good chances, and we didn't actually create good chances from our own good work. And that has been also a theme that happened against Newcastle a few times, and it definitely happened yesterday on a number of occasions. We won the ball in really good positions. All of a sudden, we're on an Arsenal's back foot. We got opportunity to create a really good chance, and then from a lot of these moments, we didn't even create an opportunity, let alone have a shot or whatever. We didn't even create an opportunity to miss because of our own wastefulness or dawdling on the ball or Solanke taking too long or whatever. So that was really frustrating. And basically we had 5 opportunities there to create a chance, and we just didn't do it, and that was mightily frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about that being a takeaway from this game, that's probably a takeaway from the first 3 out of the first 4 games so far, where we won the ball back consistently high at the pitch, but we just can't seem to do anything with it. and it's becoming ultimately very frustrating. And again, we just need to figure out a way how to get that clinical edge to our game, because nobody in that front line is showing it at the moment. Number 4 is ran out of ideas.
Yeah, and this definitely goes to the last 20 minutes of the game, because Spurs, we didn't create a lot of XG yesterday. We created 0.74 throughout the whole game from 65% possession and 15 shots. But from the stats read from after we conceded, we had only 1 shot from inside the box, and we had 5 shots in total, only 1 inside the box, 4 from outside the box, which we had 7 from inside the box beforehand. 2 of those being from Mate Sarr, by the way, from outside the box. We only created we created less than 0.1 XG after we conceded, and we just had absolutely no answer to what Arsenal offered as soon as they went 1-0 up. And for those last 25 minutes, and it's a North London derby, you're supposed to be putting the opposition under pressure, you're supposed to be going hell for leather, throwing the kitchen sink at them. We just had nothing to say about how we were going to attack in those last 25 minutes. Arsenal actually found it a lot easier in those last 25 minutes probably than they did the whole game, and we just completely ran out of ideas of what to do in those last 25 minutes. Yeah,
and that is worrying signs when you're looking at going into the second season under Ange Postecoglou. We looked a lot more threat at times, particularly first 10 games of last season, which I hate going back to. But, we looked like a threat that we can create at any chance at will. And now it seems like we can barely create a big chance on goal at the moment, which is really, really frustrating. I just want to bring up this comment from Yogi Bear. It says, stop being negative. We should sell Son now. He was garbage.
You what? Did you know what you just typed? What are you on about? You're being more negative than us.
So anyway, let's move on to the 5th and final takeaway, and that is pressure builds on Ange.
Yeah, and I think it's not too early to say. There definitely is pressure building on him. The last 11 Premier League games, we've lost 7 of them. Our form since, I think, March time would leave us in about 14th position. The only games we've won in the last 11 games were against Everton, who have lost all their games, Burnley, who we relegated, and Sheffield United, who were already relegated. We also drew with Leicester in that time as well. As much as we can talk about the good football and the positives, and I think there are good positives, and we do play good football, whatever people want to say, I do believe all those things. But the reality is, those results aren't acceptable, and those results can't continue. And if they do continue, then he's going to be in big trouble. And there's no doubt that I'm seeing him looking like he's under pressure in interviews and stuff like that, and he's starting to say, I always win stuff in my second season and stuff like that, because I do think he's starting to feel the pressure. And there's no surprise when we are getting those results. Don't get it, obviously, if you look at the games we did have in those last 11, they're all very tough games. I think St James's Park twice, Arsenal twice, probably in those last 11 games, Anfield we've been to, Stamford Bridge. So I'm not saying these are easy 11 games, but at the end of the day, it's still 7 defeats in 11 games. And when you're, looking to build on something, that's why maybe he's feeling like the team have lost a bit of courage or a little conviction and belief, because when you're getting those kind of results, you are going to lose a bit of that. So this is going to have to turn around really quickly. Otherwise, he is going to start, the pressure is only going to intensify.
The reality is, since Ange has come here, we've only beaten top 10 opposition 5 times, I think, which is Man U, I think, second game under his tenureship. Liverpool in the first 10 games as well, which we were desperately lucky to win that game, even against 9 men. We had to have help from VAR in that game when Luis Diaz scored a goal, which should have been given. And then Brighton, Villa, and an injury-ravaged Newcastle side, which we battered at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So that is worrying, that in itself. We seem to do really well against the bottom 10 teams, which should be a given. And then he's got the lowest percentage win ratio out of Mourinho, Poch, and Conte. Pochettino was sacked for less in his first part of the season when he was sacked after getting to the Champions League final. So there are very worrying signs, and if you go on the history of the football club, that will tell you that they will pull the trigger at some point.
If results continue like this, they will. So he needs to turn this around. He can't continue to lose games at this rate and expect that the club will back him until the end, because I don't think they will.
1 win against the top 10 team since December 2023 is nowhere near good enough.
No.
Nowhere near.
It's not good enough.
But that is your 5 takeaways. Let me know in the comment section below your thoughts regarding them. And if you have anything else to add, let us know in the comment section below. Now we're going to finish off on reacts, and we're going to see how the internet did react to the North London derby defeat yesterday. We're going to start off with Aditya Singh saying, as teams progress in their rebuild, some things that brought you out of the basement struggle when you also asked them to take you to the ceiling. Ange hinted at this last night. A bit of this is happening at Tottenham in the first 4 games. Let me share some examples. Where are these examples?
Oh, it's in the...
Oh, bloody hell. You're bringing out a bloody long thread here.
What am I looking at? I don't have it here.
You go on to the likes.
Oh, sorry. You might have to refresh it.
First one is... disclaimer, these are just some traits. We are just 4 games in. These players can improve, but to the point of this is to highlight how to focus shifts as team gets better. I always said last season we need to build a team that we want to be under Ange and not where we are right now. So first of all, talking about Vicario, he was making crazy saves last season and he's good on the ball. He hasn't had to make crazy saves in the first 4 games this season. He's still good on the ball. So the focus now has become on how he doesn't come for corners for the Arsenal goal. He isn't even being fouled this time.
Mm-hmm. That's absolutely right. And that's something, it's a big flaw. It's been a flaw ever since that City game. Literally, before that City game, no one even thought of it. But since that City game, he's been caught out a number of times.
Yeah, and teams are targeting it.
Yeah.
Then he's talking about Son, Johnson and Timo. We used to score a ton of goals in transition on counters last season, so the first 2 racked up great numbers. This season, we've controlled games much, much better. We're now seeing their inability against low blocks. Solanke got 0 service in the derby at home.
Yeah, that's absolutely. And this is what it's absolutely spot on, because last season the opposition probably had more of the game, which meant we had more opportunities to have transition. But because we're controlling games well, we're actually stuck in the opposition half a lot, which means we need a different skill set. And I don't think Timo, Son, or even Johnson that's their forte, and that's a problem.
Maddison, this isn't a criticism of him, to be honest, but now that we've brought Kulu in the team, Maddis is having to play deeper. You cannot have Kulu in the team. You can't not have Kulu in the team, but you also need Maddis close to the action. See him against Leicester. How do we fix this? But I also felt like that was a bit of a problem last season as well, as Maddison was dropping deep way too much.
Yeah, I don't think it's maybe saying not as much, but he was dropping deep at times last season as well, for sure. I agree with that. So, but I just think we need to persist with this Deki and Maddis thing. I think they need time. You know, they actually haven't played together that much. So I think we look a lot better with those 2 in the middle.
What do you do at Coventry with that position? Who do you play?
I reckon I would go Deki and Bergvall.
Deki and Bergvall. Yeah.
And put Bentancur still stick Bentancur on the
stick
6.
Archie Gray in there?
No, stick Bentancur because he's going to get banned, so you might as well play him.
Yeah. I'd like to see Archie Gray start, though.
Gray maybe Gray at right back.
Great right back, Spence at left back. Yeah, I wouldn't be against that. Udogi, Porro, the demands from these 2 in the system is crazy. The inversion was great last season as there was loads of spaces. We don't have that much space now, so do we ask them to play wide at times, especially Udogi? I completely agree with this. This is absolutely spot on. At some point, we need to get them wide. I think it's particularly Udogi to get that Son in the middle areas.
Agreed. Yeah, and I agree. It's another point. Like, now we're playing a lot in the opposition half. We actually don't need Porro and Udogi in those spaces, like on the halfway line, like we see them a lot, and we just need them a bit wider, maybe in the final third.
And then they just finish off saying, just some examples of the small things where focus shifts once a team progresses. Players need to improve and they realise the nature of the opposition has changed, or we'll see exits. We're almost out of the basement now and moving towards the ceiling. Keep up. All right, next up. We missed one.
This is just Barry reacting to the corner. I just thought it was quite funny. Barry knew exactly what was coming, didn't he?
He's like praying to the gods.
This is before a corner, and he's literally praying with all his might. Please don't let this go in.
It feels like it's a penalty. If you just watch that and say what's happening on the pitch, you think it's a penalty.
It's a penalty to Arsenal. You think like Barry literally reacting to a corner like it was a penalty.
Yeah,
There's a
that's
reason for
basically
it.
us getting memed all over Arsenal Twitter
Yeah,
yesterday.
it is what it is. But
Harry
I just thought Barry was funny.
Harry Brooks says,
Yeah.
worst performance in possession I've seen from Spurs for a while. I predicted Spurs would get a lot of... What?
Sorry, I can't find you. Where are
Would
you?
get a lot of final third entries, but it was a lack of quality in those moments. It would be 1-0 or 2-0 to Arsenal. But to be honest, Spurs didn't even look threatening when they did get into the final third. So it was even like they were close to creating good openings. I thought the lack of fluid movement in the central areas and lack of combination between Bentancur, Maddison, Kulusevski, Porra and Udogie was poor. All just standing, waiting, watching, playing the way that they're facing. No getting on the turn, no rotations, no disguise, no risk, no personality. Awful performance. And as I keep saying, Spurs defensively off the ball is not the big problem. It's the final third work in creating genuine openings that is well below par. And, you know, Ange has spoken about that a lot, saying he doesn't think it's the defensive actions that is the problem here at Spurs. It is the offensive actions.
I agree with that. But it's not to say that the defensive third isn't a problem. I just don't think it's the main problem. Because, as I said, when we're creating chances, like no one's going to care that much if we can see the odd goal. But when we're not... I thought yesterday, actually, there was a lot of times when we had the ball and everyone's just standing around. No one's moving and no one's like asking different questions. It was way too easy. It was way too stagnant a lot of the time. I think we will very much became alive when we're pressing and stuff like that. But when Arsenal in their settled back line and we're like looking to probe and move the ball around, it was way too stagnant, and that's got to change.
George Sessions says, this is Tottenham's worst start to a Premier League season since the 15-16, which was Maurizio Pochettino's second campaign. It started with a defeat, followed by 3 draws, but Spurs ended up in a title race before they subsequently finished third. A good omen to the end of the day. Yes. However, if we do have that same kind of points tally as we had in the second year of Poch, we still would barely make the top 4 this year, or maybe just about make it.
Would make it, but it wouldn't be. Yeah, it wouldn't
be nowhere near a title challenge.
No, it wouldn't be a title challenge because I think we finished on like 71 points in the end.
Yeah, which is like what if you go on like the last 5 years, you need 70 points to make top 4. Mari says it's frustrating to look at Sonny's maps to see that the only stays on the sideline. How long will he stay there? I feel like his potential is being wasted. We need changes. We can't use the best player and finisher on the team like that. Something has to change, and we've been banging on about this pretty much all stream, and it's quite right.
Yeah, I just want a bit more of his touches nearer to that corner of the penalty area to central, not just on the touchline. But the problem is how we play these wingers. That's what he's asked to do. So
he needs to adapt. Ange needs to adapt some of these tactics, and you're seeing a clear flaw in the game. So I think it's batshit crazy if we just carry on the same way without even like trying to change a few. And we're not asking for complete wholesale changes, just a few tweaks here and there. Ron says we used to be men, and if you look at the first picture with Pierre-Emile Højbjerg laying into Arteta, and I think that's even a pre-season friendly North London derby, back to yesterday, Maddison and Arteta having a hug off in the North London derby.
Maddison, there's no friends in the derby, mate. Come on. You can't be hugging Mikel Arteta. This is when Mikel Arteta did him, because he did a dummy when went up for a throw, and Arteta let the ball go through his legs.
I swear at one stage Arteta touched the ball with his hand when the ball was in play.
But because it looked like from us on the fans it did, but the referee blown up for a foul.
Oh, he blew up for a foul,
right, which is why he touched the ball, but we didn't know that at the time.
Next one is from Neto Era saying, can't depend on you for nothing. One, I'm having a bad day. And then Tottenham, not bad enough. Let's make it even worse.
That's the life of a Tottenham fan.
Literally 35 years of my life. Sonny says, it wasn't actually Sonny says this. It's Sonny7i says, thought a day would come where I don't feel excited to watch Sonny, but I'm really getting close to feeling like this. It's so frustrating to watch 90 minutes of Son tudding the touchline. Ange is wasting the most talented player he will ever manage. And it's hard to disagree again.
Yeah, he just needs to get Sonny in more. Look, it's something I said last year. It's something I've always had a problem with how he plays on the left. I don't have a problem with him on the left. It's more of how Ange plays his wingers is the problem for Son. So, if this is how he's going to play it, then I don't know. I don't know what the future lies for Son in this system, to be honest.
Spurs Watch say, might be the worst set of attackers I've ever seen at this club. Every single attack, we make the wrong decision. And thinking about that, like you go back to like Spurs under Christian Gross in like relegated threatened teams. You've got like Darren Anderton on the wing. You've got Klinsmann. You've got Teddy Sheringham. You know, you've got quality players there. You go back to like Martin Yole and just after Martin Yole, or maybe it was just before. When was it when we had Darren Bent, Robbie Keane, Defoe, Berbatov, and Aaron Lennon and these kind of players? I mean, does he have a case there? Is this like the worst set of attacking players?
I would say the worst since when we had one day Ramos
Fraser Campbell,
and we had Campbell, Pavlyuchenko, and Bent. And David Bentley. That's probably the worst. That's probably one of them.
Aaron Lennon was in there as well, wasn't he?
Lennon was there.
Yeah.
Bale was there as well, but very young Gareth Bale.
Yeah, left back Gareth Bale.
I'll probably say then. But since then, look, we've been blessed with some very good attackers. But yeah, at the moment, the way it's looking,
it's so harsh though to put Sonny in with that. Like, you're talking about our worst attacking options,
and also
you're
maybe
talking about
Solanke might. We'll have to see how Solanke turns up.
Yeah, the jury's definitely out with Solanke at the moment.
Oh, it's harsh. 2 games.
Yeah, the jury's out. He's got to prove himself. You don't think he's got to prove himself?
Obviously, all players have to prove
exactly.
themselves. But like,
when you come to a football club, the jury's always out until you prove yourself.
I'm confident he's gonna. I think he's done all right first 2 games. I think he's done all right.
Yeah, but he came here as a clinical striker, and he's not being clinical.
All right, it's a couple of games.
Yeah, I'm backing him, and I hope he will turn it around, and I think he will. But right now, the jury's out. That's what I'm saying. General Birkinshaw this is our recent form. From the Newcastle game where we lost 4-0 all the way to current day, and that is 3 wins in there. 4-0 win at home to Everton, 3-0 against Sheffield United, 2-1 win at home to Burnley, and we've lost all the other games apart from a draw away to Leicester.
Yeah, and we've been battered in a few of them as well. That's a big problem. Yeah, I mean, that form is just, it's shocking. When you put it together like that, it's absolutely atrocious, isn't it? It is. I mean, there's no getting around it. That is atrocious form, and it's not even like, apart from maybe the games this season, like you can't. There's a lot of those games where you can't even tell we played well or anything like that. A lot of them we were just absolutely.
Well, Man City at home we played well.
Yeah, Man City at home.
The one game. Yeah. Spurs Army says Brennan Johnson has deactivated his Instagram account. Pathetic that he's scapegoated by our fans, leading to this, which is absolutely pathetic.
Yeah, agreed.
Look, there's one thing talking about criticism on the pitch, but it should never lead to something like this. This is absolutely disgusting from our fans, to be honest. Super Spurs says, I just don't understand any Spurs fans saying to sack Ange. It's like you haven't seen the last 5 years. Arteta himself had 3 crap seasons before he built this team. Ange needs this season and next summer before it's questioned, or let's sack another manager to rebuild again. And you look at every manager that's doing well. Like, look at Jurgen Klopp. He wasn't great in his first couple of seasons, even though he did get to like cup finals and stuff, didn't he? You're looking at Pep Guardiola, took time to get into it. Mikel Arteta is probably the best case to look at when you're looking at 3 seasons it took him to really see any sign of improvement. So we need to stick with this process.
Yeah. It's just whether you believe Ange is the right guy to head the process or not.
Yeah.
I like Ange. I think he's I do like the way of playing football, but the reality is he definitely doesn't usually stay at a club for more than 2 years. So is there something to say about him being the head of the rebuild? I mean, you can have your own opinions on that. I want to see us persist with him, but if the form does get too bad, and then all of a sudden you start looking, because Conte and Mourinho, we all wanted a rebuild under them, but we knew that these aren't managers who stick around for longer than 2 years.
We kind of lied to ourselves saying that they would be.
Yeah, but are we lying to ourselves here to say he would be? Just because he plays good football, does that mean he can head a rebuild?
I mean, these managers, I think all 3 of the managers maybe, but I mean, I think Mourinho and Ange have come here thinking that they can be here for the long term. I don't think it was ever the case for Conte. But I do feel like Mourinho came here with a long-term vision, and I feel Ange has got a long-term vision as well.
So we persist with it.
Carly says, let me help you, PGMOL. This should have been the first yellow for Jurrien Timber, and this should have been the second yellow for Jurrien Timber for clutching at Vicario's shirt.
Yeah, he got lucky that Vicario was on and got booked there and not him. And considering he was on a yellow at that point, from that point of view, got
was the
lucky.
yellow already given?
It was given.
Yeah,
for the
but
foul.
Was it given after the whole melee?
I can't remember. I think he did bring out straight away. I can't remember. But from that point of view, maybe he was lucky to stay on the pitch. I don't think the challenge was a red card. I think that still makes the challenge seem a lot worse than it was.
Yeah, but you go back to the Robertson one and when Liverpool, when he got sent off against Jones, when he got sent off against us, and it kind of brushed off the top of the ball and he got given a red card.
Yeah, I think it was worse than that.
You think it was worse? I think maybe it was worse, but it's kind of very similar though, didn't it?
He made Basuma's leg bend, I remember. No, he barely touched Porro, to be honest.
Jesse Painman says Jared Gillett when he sees a Spurs player.
Yeah, he was so card happy with Spurs yesterday. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was pissing me off.
Adam says Everton and Spurs fans.
This is on the quote retweet.
Assisted dying is expected to be fast-tracked through Parliament.
Spurs fans getting excited.
Oh, God.
Classic Twitter.
Fabrizio Romano parody says, this goal animation on the scoreboard when Arsenal scored against Tottenham. Oh,
was that the actual animation?
That's ridiculous.
Did Sky Sports actually do that, or was that...
No, it's not Sky Sports. I don't think it was Sky Sports.
I really hope that wasn't the actual animation.
Tappin Tobes says, Ange didn't catch enough heat for my liking in this post-match. My head was too gone. Complete lack of variety to our attacking patterns. When you see that team like Arsenal suss you out and instead trying to change how we attack, he just changes personnel with the same instruction. And I don't give a damn what your opinion is of Maddison. Taking him off for Werner was quite literally the game. That game finished as a contest, abysmal stuff. I mean, we kind of said similar things, but we knew this about Ange, didn't we? When we got him, Plan B is to do Plan A better.
Yeah, but I also think you need your system to be hardwired before he feels like he can make proper adjustments to it. But at the moment, a lot of things he does need to tweak, I feel.
Yeah. Tadarius to do Sonny FC says, why would you use one of the best finishers so wide left and isolated? What's he going to do hugging the touchline? I mean, we've covered that already, but absolutely spot on. Rad Chohan says, Maddison deep, Udogie half space, Son wide left was a horrid dynamic. Why not just overlap Udogie and move Son inside? Maddison is even decent at manipulating at half yard and crossing from wide in support of Udogie. Again, we have covered that and it's absolutely spot on. Lily White Lab says something very wrong with our left-hand side dynamics. So again, that's exactly the same. Mo Arsenal says Tottenham fans and media showing a picture telling that's a red. Get a life, morons. If referee don't do corruption, we will finish the season with 100+ points. What? We'd have 4 clean sheets from 4 matches if Rice did not get that double yellow or Veltman got a red. I mean, Rice
got sent off.
Rice was deservedly sent off.
Yeah, 100%. But this isn't a red. This challenge here it's not a red. There's just not much to it.
It's not a red at all.
No, it's not a red.
Sigh. And that was when North London derbies actually were a bit feisty.
Yeah.
And that's a pre-season friendly. Daily Hotspur says, we've covered that with Kuti Romero. Tetrunk says, build the team around Kulusevski. I'm not even joking. Our most creative, tenacious and hard-working player by quite some distance.
It's becoming undroppable, isn't he, Kudeki, at the moment?
Yep.
I completely agree with that.
And I kept banging on about it last season. Like, he's not a winger in this system, moving to the central areas. And now we finally found a space for him. We were questioning it. You were questioning it. Where do we fit Deki in this team? And he's found a way.
Yeah, and I've always said, I think in Ange's perfect system, he wants 2 attacking 8s there. And I think we're finally seeing that.
Yeah. But then where does that leave Pape Matar?
Good question. He's got to get better.
Yeah, that's true. Premier League panel says Ange's tactical answers to Arteta's deep block were abysmal. Refusal to move Son inside. Then he took 68 minutes to bring Odegaard on, who is his only 1v1 winger in the squad. Kept trying to build through the middle where there was no space. I mean, is there a case to say that he should have brought on Odegaard earlier?
Probably should have started him.
Yeah, I agree with that. Because Odegaard will actually ask questions of the fullback, and once they were 1-0 up, it just became like an impossible task.
But if Odegaard had the space Johnson had, maybe he could have done more with it.
Exactly.
Maybe, we don't really know that for sure, but maybe.
Darren Yarlett says, quite possibly the most gutless, pathetic North London derby performance from a Spurs side in 20 years. Once again, you look at the mediocre signings this club has brought in. Clueless, boring. We bring on Odegaard and Werner, and that they bring on Sterling and Jesus. Absolutely says everything. I think that's wrong where he says the most gutless, pathetic North London derby
Probably at
performance
home.
in 20 years.
It's not. I mean, at home.
At home, yeah. I mean, the one that really sticks out is the one at the Emirates under Nuno.
Yeah, we're 3-0 down after 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But I think at home, I mean, we always give them a good game. Like, this is probably, I wouldn't say Arsenal had it easy yesterday, but I would say, like, in terms of, I think that was probably the easiest they've had it. Probably, even last season, I would say we gave it more of a go.
You say that, but I don't think we deserve to lose the game.
I know, but I'm just saying, I'm trying to think of a home game where we've literally not laid a glove on them like we did yesterday.
Yeah, but also on the flip side of that, you've never seen Arsenal come to Tottenham the way they did yesterday and just sit in a low block.
That's also true. But he's saying that I would say at home, I struggled to think of a game where we just especially in those last half an hour, we just did nothing. Like, I struggled to think of a game like that.
Yeah, it's true. When you're talking about the most gutless North London derby performances in 20 years, I'll definitely say if you're just going on the last 20 minutes, then that's for sure. But last one, 4 games, 4 points, worst start to the season in 9 years, which is damning, but hopefully something has to give over the next couple of games. We've got a lot of games coming thick and fast now, so things can, if things carry on going bad, they can spiral very quickly.
Yeah, look, if that's the worry. The worrying thing is we've had all these like kind of good performances and no results, and when that happens, sometimes the players do start to question, lose belief, and we need the results to get that belief up again. So we need that to change very, very soon.
You know, as quickly as it can spiral in a negative way, it could also go on an upward trajectory very quickly as well if we get consistent results.
Win the next 2 games, and all of a sudden, you know, you're looking upwards again.
I thought you were going to say all is forgiven. I was about to
No,
slap
not all is
you.
forgiven. Definitely not. You're just saying you're looking upwards again.
But yeah, that is all we have for you today.
The only thing that can forgive this is a win at the Emirates.
Yeah, in
That's
January.
the only thing.
We have to, man.
That's the only thing.
We have to, man. We haven't beaten Arsenal since 2022.
We have to beat the Emirates. That's the only thing that can forgive this.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is all we have for you. I want to thank you all for sticking with us for 2 long hours today. We'll see you all very soon. Tomorrow is preview day for the Carabao Cup against Coventry. We'll be making the trip up to the Ricoh Arena Wednesday night. But we go again. We go again. We never stop. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.